Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending tonight's forums. I'd first like to thank our Government Affairs Committee for putting this event on. They do such a great job with it. I'd also like to thank Ty Bach and Steve Meyer out there. Yep, go ahead and clap for them. We have Ty Bach and Steve Meyer. They were out checking everyone in. Just thank you for them. And then we have Bev Lightnum and Peter Clark up here helping with some of the questions with tonight's forum, and of course our moderator, Nicole Soto. A few things about tonight's forums. We will go in this order: State Auditor, U.S. Senate, Governor, Superintendent of Public Instruction, Secretary of State, State Treasurer, State Senator, District 21, State Representative, District 29, State Representative, District 30, State Representative District 40, and State Representative District 51. Candidates are going to have a 2-minute intro followed by questions with up to 45 seconds to answer each, and then a 2-minute closing. Chamber staff is going to operate the timer, and they will signal when you have 30 seconds remaining. Kim, will you hold that sign up? Thank you. And then a stop sign. Yeah, they're huge, so don't tell me you can't see them. All of our questions tonight will be asked by our moderator. And the forums are being live streamed and recorded, so that way you can go back and watch them later, or if you have family or constituents in your area who would like to see them, they are welcome to log on to our website or YouTube channel, and the recordings will be there. So without further ado, we'll get going with this evening's forums, and I'll have Nicole B.D. Soto come on up, who is our board chair.
Thank you, Teresa, and thank you all for being here this evening. It is so great to see so many of you in these seats and engaging in our democratic process to get to know our candidates and learn more about their positions. As a quick reminder, do please remember to silence your cell phones so that we can focus on the statements that our candidates have. And if you could, please all stand me and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. To begin this evening, we have a couple statements from a couple individuals, candidates that were unable to attend. So I'll read those before we get into the candidate forum for the U.S. Senator. To start, we have a statement from Christy Racines, who is running for the state auditor. Thank you for your work on these important debates, and I am sorry I'm not able to be there with you. For those of you who may not know me, I am Christy Racines, and I'm honored to serve as your Wyoming State Auditor. As a certified public accountant, I have spent the last 20 years in public and private organizations, auditing, budgeting, and managing tens of millions of dollars. This has given me a deep appreciation for financial responsibility and the importance of accountability when you are entrusted with other people's money. The state auditor has a simple but critical mission: to protect taxpayer dollars, ensure transparency in government spending, and maintain accurate financial records for the people of Wyoming. Early in my term, we fulfilled a promise I made during my first campaign to increase transparency in state spending. Within months, we launched wyopen.gov, Wyoming's online checkbook, giving the public the ability to see how their tax dollars are being spent. Additionally, I have rooted out inefficiencies and redundancies, renegotiated contracts, and leveraged technology to make sure we are right-sized and efficient. This allowed me to present to the legislature this year the lowest auditor's office budget since 2004. As I seek another term as state auditor, my priorities remain clear. First, I will continue to strengthen transparency in government, ensuring Wyoming citizens have access to clear and timely financial information. Second, I will protect taxpayer dollars by maintaining strong financial controls and responsible accounting practices across state government. And third, I will invest in our communities, particularly in critical infrastructure, to move Wyoming forward. The government isn't here to solve all of your problems, but it needs to do its job and then get out of the way. Thank you for being here and being engaged. It matters. Please call, email, or stop by my office if you ever have any concerns or questions, and I humbly ask for your support on August 18th. In addition, we have a statement from Kurt Meyer, who's running for state treasurer. Thank you for being here and providing this opportunity for candidates to tell voters about themselves. I'm Kurt Meyer, and I'm honored to serve as Wyoming State Treasurer. I am a lifelong Wyomingite, an ag producer, businessman, former legislator, and for the past 8 years, your state treasurer. For more than 4 decades, I have been involved in Wyoming public service and Republican politics because I believe our state is worth fighting for. Throughout my career, whether serving in the legislature or as a treasurer, I have been guided by a few simple principles: uphold and defend the constitutions of the United States and Wyoming, honor the oath of office, protect taxpayers, and leave Wyoming better than we found it. When I first ran for treasurer, I believed Wyoming had an opportunity to make our money work harder for the people of this state. Today, I am proud to say that under our leadership, Wyoming's investments became the state's #1 source of revenue for the first time in history, generating nearly $1.9 billion last year alone. There are some folks who are trying to rewrite history, but the amount of money generated by investments is a hard fact, and that's revenue helping fund government services without coming directly from taxpayers' pockets. At the same time, our office has returned record amounts of unclaimed property to Wyoming citizens and businesses. More than $41 million in a single year. Those are dollars that belong to the people, and we have worked hard to get them back where they belong. But I'm running for re-election because I believe our best work may still be ahead of us. Wyoming faces challenges as traditional revenue sources change, but we also have tremendous opportunities. I want to continue building Wyoming's financial strength, growing investment income, protecting our independence, and creating a future where your children and grandchildren can build their lives right here at home. I often say that what I want to see in your backyard is an uncertainty about the future. It's your children and grandchildren gathered around a Saturday barbecue. That's the Wyoming we're working toward. Experience matters, results matter, and in uncertain times, steady leadership matters. I appreciate the opportunity and thank you again for voting on August 18th. If the candidates we have here for United States Senator, please join me here on stage. Joining me, we have Billy Benavides, James Byrd, John Allen Holtz, Sam Mead, and Jimmy Skogard. Before I allow these candidates to have their 2-minute intro, I do have a statement from U.S. House Representative Harriet Hageman, who is also running for U.S. Senate. And I'll read her statement before we start with the intro statements here. Thank you for your steadfast commitment to and support of our communities and business leaders. While I always prefer to be with you in person, I am currently in Washington, D.C. for previously scheduled House votes and committee activities. I appreciate this opportunity to update you on my work on Capitol Hill, where I am presently fighting for our beautiful state. As a member of the United States House of Representatives, I have enjoyed the privilege of passing more than 41 legislative wins. These accomplishments include 24 appropriation amendments, 7 bills passed, dozens more co-sponsored, plus nearly $40 million for Wyoming infrastructure throughout community-funded projects, and over $16 million returned to constituents through casework. The House Appropriations Committee is currently reviewing requests for additional funding, and I have submitted requests for millions more in federal investments for Wyoming. I am optimistic more hard-earned tax dollars will be returning to benefit our state. This past year and a half has been a historic year for our country and the great people of Wyoming. Thanks to the One Big Beautiful Bill, Wyoming residents received the largest tax cuts of any state in the nation, with an average reduction of nearly $5,500 per taxpayer. The One Big Beautiful Bill dealt a blow to the death tax to help families keep their ranches, renewed opportunities for Wyoming lucrative energy and mineral industries, and reinforced border security. Wyoming families will also see new opportunities for home ownership thanks to the 21st Century Road to Housing Act, which has now become law. Together, President Trump and the Republican Congress are relying on the proven tactics of cutting taxes and regulation to usher in a new industrial renaissance as we embrace the next 250 years of independence. It has been the honor of a lifetime to represent Wyoming in the United States House of Representatives. I will continue to work tirelessly for you and for our great state. While I am again disappointed I cannot be there in person, I look forward to being with all of you at some point in the near future. And to begin our 2-minute intro, Mr. Benavides, can you please start us off?
Check, baby, check. Does this work? Oh, it does.
Sounds great.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Billy Benavides. You can call me Billy the Baptist. One important theme I think everyone likes about me is I am saying loudly and boldly, one term only. Let me say it again, just so people don't forget. One term only. That's all I'm running for. I do not want to be a career politician. But besides that, what front and center of vision that I have is God should always be front and center. At least he is in my life. For we, the people, he should be as well. We have, in our republic, have had 250 years. We have stood strong. We have had courage, and we are solid as a rock. But I want it for not only today, but for the next generation to come. And I hope every single one of you want that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. James Byrd.
Thank you, and thank you, the people of Sheridan, for putting on this wonderful event. Even though it's 100 degrees outside, I see a lot of you managed to make it here. My name is James Byrd. I am from Cheyenne, Wyoming. My family homesteaded in this state when it was still a territory. So when I talk about being from Wyoming, I mean it. It goes back and runs deep in my veins and boots. But that's not why I'm here. What I'm here for is because I was in retirement, literally, from the state legislature and deciding to go fishing and relaxing and all of those things until I saw that our government, and especially our federal government, was going to make a huge step in the wrong direction. We have a couple people that are in our delegation for the federal that really don't want to represent the state of Wyoming. They don't talk to the people except for when it's an election year. And it's an election year, so you're going to hear a lot out of them. And right after November, you're not going to hear anything from them. So that's one of the reasons that I'm in this. The other reason is that one of those individuals who is not here today really did sign on and push for selling all of the public land west of the Mississippi. Now, I don't know about anybody in this, in this part of the state, but down in my part of the state, that's really important because that is a key ingredient of what makes Wyoming tick. And so those are the two things that got me into this, along with a couple other things. But I'll be able to talk about that in a minute. So thank you, Sheridan, for allowing me to be here.
And Mr. John Allen Holtz. Oh.
Testing. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Hi, I'm John Allen Holtz. On the ballot, I'm John Holtz. Want to thank everyone for being here tonight. America is in serious trouble. We hear good things, we hear bad things, but we are at war. During the Vietnam War era, I was a Space Systems Operations Officer in the Air Force watching for sea-launched ballistic missiles from the Caribbean from Russian submarines. You have to think quickly and act fast. That's where we are today with Iran. We are in serious trouble, and I point out to everyone something that you may not know. During World War II, the Japanese bombed Wyoming. They bombed the Owl Creek Mountains in Thermopolis with a Japanese balloon bomb. They figured out how to make it work and were successful. Now, here we are 80 years later at war with Iran, and things are not getting better. Whatever the Iranians have, they will use. And the uranium oxide must be kept from them, and we must do what it takes to win this war. And at home, we have serious problems too. Social Security, for those of you that are familiar with it, has lost approximately a third of its buying power since the year 2000. The COLA, cost of living adjustments, have not kept pace. Also, the thresholds have never been adjusted for inflations. So everyone will be paying approximately the rate of ordinary income, almost, on their Social Security. And Social Security right now, the way it is funded, will probably experience in approximately 76 months a cut of approximately 22 to 25%. Therefore, when you see kids that were living at home because they couldn't afford an apartment, we're now going to see their parents in the same boat. So we ask the Lord for guidance. Thank you.
Mr. Sam Mead.
Hey folks, my name is Sam Mead. I grew up here in Wyoming. Well, first, let me say thank you for coming out because I think one of the bedrocks of a healthy democracy is an engaged public. And here you are in front of us. I think it's important that you are able to hear us talk and understand how we think. And without that, it's really hard to make an informed decision voting. So thank you. I grew up in Wyoming. I've been a problem solver all my life, whether that's ranching, I'm a 5th-generation rancher, or making whiskey, or being the mayor in the booming town of Kirby, Wyoming. I was a technician building 3D printed rocket parts, and I've been a software engineer for the last 5 years. So I love to solve problems. I love to solve hard problems, and I like to push things across the finish line because all too often in politics, I see us talk about things but not get anything done. And I want to represent Wyoming in a way that reflects my values because I'm a constituent, and I didn't feel that my voice was being heard or that our representatives particularly cared what I had to say. And so that's part of the reason I'm running. The other reason I'm running is because I have children that are 7 and 8 years old, and I never want to have a conversation with them in the future about how I didn't do anything to fix what I saw wrong. I want them to know that we have agency, we can fix things, and nothing's too broken to fix. And so that's why I'm running tonight. It's good to be here. Thank you.
Mr. Jimmy Scovegard.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheridan, for coming out to see us tonight. I'm Jimmy Scogard. I grew up in the Bighorn Basin. I was actually born in Spearfish, South Dakota, lived in Beulah a little bit. I was reminded of that the other day over in Crook County. Some of my moms, the folks who grew up with my mom, came up and said hi, and some folks that worked with my father in the timber industry came up and said hi. And that's a long time ago. That's 50 some years ago, and I'm like, wow. People in Wyoming remember, and we have a small community here in Wyoming. I am from the people. I don't have a lot of money back in me. You don't see my flyers and ads and road signs and all the other paraphernalia that goes along with campaigning. but you can go to my website. I'm a tech guy, and I like working with tech. Built you a campaign page or a candidates page so you can go in and check out all your primary ballot candidates before the primary and see who's running by all the way down to your precinct level. Now let's get into the meat of things. I just heard some smoke get hammered up everybody's hind end, talking about how much of a tax cut we just got. Well, how can you call it a tax cut when you jam $4 trillion into the debt and say, oh, we're going to jam $4 trillion into the debt and then call it a tax cut? Oh, so you kicked it down onto my grandchildren, huh? And we're not supposed to pay attention to that? Hey, let's look behind the curtain, folks. Let's start realizing what's going on here. Also, I got started in this because of labels. You know, my brother, my sister, my cousins, Rhino, TDS, all this stuff. I'm like, how can that be if I stand for character and integrity, and all of a sudden?
I'm sure you'll have an opportunity to continue some of your thoughts and our questions here. Thank you all for that introduction. As a reminder, you have 45 seconds to answer these questions. We have 3 questions. I'll state the question here and then go down through the line and announce who can answer that first and go from there. The question is, what policies would you support to manage public lands and natural resources? Mr. Skogard.
Thank you for that question. For public lands, you know, we have to be aware of what's going on. You know, we get these big omnibus and minibus and whatever they're called, bus bills with thousands and thousands of pages. We now have the technology to reach out and dig through those things very quickly. And we should have that information in front of us as a constituency, not waiting for our representatives to maybe tell us about it, because that certainly wasn't how we heard about the land sales, the 3.2 or 2.6 to 3.2 million acres of public lands that we were just going to randomly sell across 11 western states. I would have simply asked my representative to walk across the aisle and join up with Montana and say, no.
Mr. Benavides.
What policies would I want to work with, what have you? It varies, but first and foremost, I had a constituent, and that's one thing as a senator that I will do, is I will listen to constituents. I will listen to the people. There's one constituent that had a huge concern was the rule book. In regard to the railroad, they have the rule book, which is unfortunately written in red, which is people have been hurt and what have you. The rule book in regard to public lands has been thrown out. I found out this just recently. So years upon years of meticulous due process is gone, and they're just making up rules as they go. But in regard to policies, in small towns, in the bigger towns, I would accommodate for what they want.
Thank you. Mr. Byrd.
Thank you for the question. Public lands is what got me into this. It got me off the couch. It got me very emotional because here's one thing. In Wyoming, the tourism industry generated $5.5 billion last year, and the public lands were instrumental in making that happen for guides and all sorts of people in the hotel business, the motel business, and that. But that's just one half of the backstory. The other is the farmers and ranchers need that public land to complete their operations. And without that, we could be losing some legacy ranches that have been homesteaded in this state forever. And that's just a dang shame because the end result there is to sell that land to some hedge fund bro or some rich guy out there in DC.
Mr. Holtz.
Do not let Wyoming become Disneyland. We do not need the degree of development that we are having today with these windmills, with data centers. Cheyenne was slated to get perhaps 70 data centers that will change our lifestyle, our environment, our land. It is a serious problem, and we need to address it. Also, we are in an extended drought with fires that are beginning almost daily in Wyoming, a serious problem that we will need perhaps some federal help with air tankers to put out fires quickly so they do not spread. But public lands should be kept as local as possible. Thank you.
Mr. Meade.
Look, I'm a Republican, and I believe in small government, and a federal mandate dictating that we dispose of 3 million acres of public land is incompatible with those beliefs. And anyone that thinks otherwise, I think, doesn't listen to the people of Wyoming or doesn't care what they have to think. Selling those is not an option. It's a non-negotiable for me. I want my kids to be able to hunt the places I've hunted, to recreate the places I've hunted, to fish the places I've fished. And I want your kids to be able to do that too. And selling them to pay for some sort of, to pay down the federal deficit is such a betrayal of Wyoming. And it was one of the things that galvanized me to get into the race because I don't believe in it. Thank you.
The national debt continues to grow. What specific policies would you support to reduce the debt, and what trade-offs are you willing to make? Mr. Meade, we'll begin with you again.
When I think about solving problems, I look at the low-hanging fruit. Where are the dollars going to be that we can make a big difference in solving this problem? And looking at the national debts, one of the biggest buckets is healthcare. We spend $1.8 trillion on healthcare. What are ways we can improve that while still providing service to people? Because that's I believe we can do that at the end of the day. So one of the things I'm working on is an ensure communication protocol to make sure that, and I know I'm a nerd, I'm a software engineer, but administering the cost healthcare is a huge cost, and it doesn't provide value to the patients. So let's create a standardized system across the board to make that more efficient and spend less dollars. Thank you.
And Mr. Skogard, you can go next. Yes, thank you.
Obviously, this is an issue that's close to every one of us, whether we realize it or not. The debt and the deficit are driving inflation right now like it hasn't been driven for quite some time. And when we ignore this, we ignore it to the detriment of our posterity, to the people that we hold this point in history and trust for. And we need to take a look at how we're going to bring it down by removing some of the agencies that we don't need, returning the powers back to the state that belong with the state. Sam just mentioned healthcare. That is obviously a power that needs to be returned back to the state, and the states need to take primacy there. If we need to...
Mr. Benavides.
In regard to the national debt, there is a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse. How many years have we been hearing, oh, there's so much waste, it's just through the roof? Well, when I get there, Lord willing, you guys vote for me, I will figure out the details and get it done. As well as the military-industrial complex, they have a lot of waste going on. I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere it was $10,000 for a small bolt. That doesn't make any sense. A bolt, somewhere in a hardware store would be 10, 20 cents, not $10,000. And then plus when we have growth, a vibrant, amazing economy, we got to cut spending. We don't just keep spending and have growth and just blow out the national debt. We actually cut spending.
Mr. Byrd.
Thank you. I appreciate the comments from my colleagues up on the stage, but they've really danced around this one. The culprit here is the Congress. The Congress is sitting on their thumbs. The House of Representatives, it is their constitutional mandate to control the budget and the spending. They are sitting on their thumbs. They are doing absolutely nothing, and the representative that we have in that Congress is doing nothing with them. The same with the Senate. They are not doing their jobs. They're allowing the executive to just spend like a drunken sailor. This and the war in Iran are the problems. Get me to Washington. I will stop all of that and try to get the Senate back on track.
Mr. Holtz.
we have a serious problem. It's approaching 40 trillion. That is a huge number. It's not getting better, and it's not going to get better unless you put someone there who is serious and will do things and persuade others to pass the possible and probable things that we need to do to address it. Rural health care in Wyoming is a problem. We have problems. Years ago, when I was the judge in Douglas and Glenrock, I was asked to go meet a new doctor and convince him to move there. Our rural health care is in trouble, and Wyoming, in spite of what you hear, I think is going to be in serious where we could lose perhaps 6 rural hospitals if we do not do something. Thank you.
What do you believe are the greatest threats to the U.S. national security, and how would your priorities shape defense policy? Mr. Holtz, we'll begin with you.
I would treat Iran as the enemy that they are. If we do not change the government in Iran, we are going to get more of the same. If we do not remove the uranium oxide, where they have approximately enough for 11 nuclear weapons, we will be the victim of someday where they use it. Again, if the Japanese can attack Wyoming in the U.S. 80 years ago, Iran can certainly do it today through a variety of methods. They could put a launcher on a freighter off either coast, hit virtually anywhere in the U.S. that they want to at any time. We need to do things, and we need to keep the Strait of Hormuz open. Thank you.
Mr. Meade.
I'd agree with John that we need to keep the Strait of Hormuz open. Pax Americana has been enabled by the global free trade and the USA's willingness to keep ships moving and prevent piracy, basically. Iran is becoming a huge cog, or a stick in the wheels, I guess, of that whole concept. And so when you look at the strait being closed, there's several other global straits. What are the ramifications of not keeping the Strait of Hormuz open? And it's an end to the current global order. And so I think we need to be looking for diplomatic solutions with Iran that are going to be durable and long-lasting, and that ensure free trade remains a top priority for the U.S. Thank you.
We've got an oath that we swear when we enter the service. Support and defend the Constitution. I think that's the #1 threat right now to the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. We've got folks like Stephen Miller sitting in our government, and frankly, that scares me. The issue in Iran, we woke up one day and we were at war. How does that work? Article 1 says that power belongs to Congress, and yet we've delegated it away. And I have to say, folks, at some point we're going to have to wake up and smell the coffee, because this is what's going on within our government right now. We're being attacked from within, and we need to realize that.
Mr. Benavides.
I always say, unfortunately, we have the enemy from within. We want our privacy back. FISA, even though it lapsed about a week or so ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, is still active. That doesn't make any sense. Illegal. It's illegal, and it's still going on. In regard to domestic outside of the United States, you've always heard of the term peace through force. Ronald Reagan said that. But I prefer to use domestic energy from here in the United States, America-only energy, our own oil. But I would love to have our privacy back that we want to have and we should have as Americans, that we fought for years upon years ago.
Mr. Byrd.
Thank you. The question is about national security, and our national security does revolve directly around our debt. We owe countries around the world more money than you can imagine, and guess what? Most of those countries are not our friends anymore. So you imagine if your home mortgage was held by a bank that you really don't like. That's kind of where we're heading, and we're heading blindly down that road because the Congress is not doing their job in reining in the executive and all the other crazy things that are going on. The war in Iran is just an example of that. It is absolute amateur hour in that portion of the government. It should never be happening. If you send me to Washington, I will fix that in the Senate.
And now to move on to our 2-minute closing. Mr. Byrd, we'll start off with you.
Thank you, and thank you to the people of Sheridan showing up on this day. Like I said, it's a hot day outside. For you to sit inside here and listen to us talk about how we want to change the government and everything is a wonderful thing. But what I want to tell you is right now, the people of Wyoming are not being represented by their delegation in Washington, D.C. They are representing the hedge fund bros in the New York City, the Beltway bros, and those Silicon bros who are just dying to come to Wyoming and buy up Wyoming on the cheap, because there are people in that organization that want to sell it on the cheap. That is not in our public interest. That's not the Wyoming way, and that's not what I want to do. I want to go there and get Senate back on track, because they negotiate treaties that lowers tariffs, that lowers your cost of fuel, that lowers your cost of food, and then we're going to go out there and get term limits on everybody, the Senate, the House, and especially the Supreme Court. My name is James Byrd. My website is birdforsenate.com. Elect me, and we will have some real change in Wyoming.
Mr. Holtz.
Never be afraid to ask the Lord for guidance. We are in perilous times, and I do not believe they are going to get better. Whoever you send there should be able to do the best job and convince others to do what needs to be done. That is extremely difficult. We cannot rely on Tinkerbell to sprinkle fairy dust and hope things are going to work. We need to put people there who can actually do things and do what it takes. Years ago, my first job at a law school was doing contracts for Hughes Aircraft. I set records there, did things. I was the head of the team to redesign the fire control system of the Army's main battle tank. Hughes offered me the current main battle tank, but I came back to Wyoming, where I did murder cases in Douglas and Glen Rock, and I became a judge there 21 months later, where I set up courts that are now circuit courts across Wyoming. We need to get someone in who can think innovatively and do what it takes. Always trust in the Lord. God bless you all.
Mr. Mead.
Well, thanks to the Chamber for putting on such a nice event. Thanks for everybody attending. I want to deliver solutions for Wyoming. You know, real problems or real solutions to real problems. And my campaign's always been about that. I'm pragmatic. That means you have to work with people across the aisle. You have to build consensus. You have to build coalitions. That's something I've done in my past and I can do in the future. I'm running to protect our public lands, because once they're gone, they're gone. I'm running to fix our healthcare system so that our kids can afford healthcare and our kids can raise their kids here in Wyoming. If you think there's too much money in politics, if you think that your voice is not being heard, I have the capacity to do this, and I would be honored to have your vote on August 18th in the primary. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for showing up tonight. We face an evolutionary type of fear when we see retribution and these type of activities employed in our political system, and it's not right. It makes you want to distance yourself. You cringe. You're like, you want to be part of the group and part of the in crowd, and sometimes it takes a little courage. Sometimes it takes a little bit of somebody from the people to come forward and say, hey, let's stop the nonsense. Let's get back on track. Let's get this country back to where it needs to be. Cut the spending. Bring ourselves back in line with where we're at. Stop random wars. And realize that while we're spending trillions of dollars in the Middle East, China's spending trillions of dollars building up its infrastructure and becoming a real threat to our way of life. And until we do that, until we reach inside and find our courage and look each other in the eye. If somebody wants to label you, accept that label. There goes the power of that label out the window. Never had it anyway. It didn't have it on the grade school playground. It certainly doesn't have it in your conversations day to day, or even around your kitchen table. So, folks, let's take a look at what's going on in our government. A lot of us, an awful lot of us, have sworn that oath to support and defend the Constitution. And I think we need to take a serious look at what's going on within our own government and within the government here within the state of Wyoming. We've got big money, dark money, pouring into our politics, and it's all for control. To take the government away from us at the local and county level and bring it to the state level and concentrate it there so we can walk up to them with our hands out and supplicate and say, hey, give me my money so I can kind of do my job.
Mr. Benavides.
Once again, you can call me Billy the Baptist. If you want to log on to billyforwyoming.com. But once, I guess I forgot in the beginning, was thank you everyone for your precious time. I asked for your vote in the primary, as well as if you're a Republican, you can type my name in there. Also, one thing I want to say, sometimes we need someone dynamic, new, strong, that will take the Constitution, put it on my back, put it on my son's backs, and your backs, because we want a strong, vibrant, full of integrity America, not a nasty corruption of a sick country. We don't want that. We want to win. And we can win, I can win, everyone can win with your support. I would love to have your vote in the primary. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I appreciate every single one of you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks again. Thank you, Mr. Bird. Thank you. I will now invite the candidates for governor to join me on stage. Tonight we have Eric Barlow, Brent Vine, and Megan Degenfelder. Good evening. All right, to begin, we'll start off with a 2-minute intro, and we will begin with Mr. Barlow.
Good evening, Sheridan County. It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening. My name is Eric Barlow. I'm running to be the next governor of Wyoming. I'm a fourth-generation ranch kid from Campbell County, a Marine Corps veteran, a veterinarian, a rancher, a business person, a husband to my lovely 9th grade sweetheart, Kelly, and have 2 great kids, Kate and Graham. Graham, of course, lives here in Sheridan County, and we have a bonus daughter-in-law, Alexis. I'm really honored to have my mother, Bernadette, here this evening. I don't know if she's ever seen me in an event like this, so I love you, Mom. I care about Wyoming just like you do. The Wyoming I care about is for the next generation. What are we doing to make Wyoming the place where our children can choose to be here? For me, it's a limited government. It's a robust economy, and it's thriving communities. And we can do this work together. I have a legislative tenure as well. 14 years in the Wyoming legislature of accomplishing things on behalf of Wyoming. 66 bills I sponsored. Half of them became law the first time. Some take a couple of years longer. But every one of those 66 bills came from somebody in my community who said, Eric, can you fix this? What would make a difference? How about this? And then you go do the work. You show up, you listen, you learn, and you make people's lives better. I thank you for your attendance tonight, and I look forward to the questions. Good evening.
Folks, thank you very much for attending tonight. It's good to be back in Sheridan. My name is Brent Bien. For those of you who I haven't had the opportunity to meet, I am a Wyoming native, graduate of the University of Wyoming Engineering College, United States Naval War College, retired Marine Corps colonel, aviator, and combat veteran. I've been married to my lovely wife, Susan, for almost 30 years this year, and we've raised three wonderful daughters. I am a principled conservative Republican, and I do have an unwavering belief in individual sovereignty, self-governance, American exceptionalism, and absolute truth. And absolute truth is defined by God. I will tell you that I have witnessed the end state of tyranny in different places around the world, and it's horrific to see. And what we have here is so precious, and I tell you, without our freedom, we have nothing, and I am willing to go to the mat for that. In this race, and what I've seen in this state is that it has been sold out, folks. And I hate to see our agriculture being swallowed up by globalist interests. Few trust our elections. Spending's out of control. Taxation is out of control also, and our public education is well below where it should be. And of course, our energy policy is upside down. So my objective is to return principled conservative leadership, accountability, and discipline to Cheyenne. And it's about putting people first, changing the paradigm, and answering the question, do the institutions answer to the bureaucracy or to the people? And I intend to make sure it's the people. But folks, it's going to take all of us to do that. Every warrior patriot out there to return taxes to the taxpayers, education to the voters, or I'm sorry, the parents, and energy to Wyoming. Folks, this election's about you. Thank you very much.
Well, good evening, Sheridan. It's wonderful to be here. My name is Megan Degenfelder. When I first started my career, it was in Gillette, where I lived, working for Cloud Peak Energy in the coal industry. And so I spent a lot of time here in Sheridan and was very active and involved in the chamber. And so it's wonderful to be here. The race for governor is truly a race for the future of Wyoming. And we have a decision to make. Will we accept the status quo, or will we decide that Wyoming is meant to lead? Now, I get it. I don't look like your average career politician, but I think that's exactly what we need right now. I'm a sixth-generation Wyoming ranch kid whose parents clawed their way into the middle class, a University of Wyoming graduate who built a career in coal and oil and gas, and ran as your superintendent to be able to reform education. And I'm running for governor because I believe that Wyoming is worth fighting for. I'm running for governor to protect our conservative values and our way of life here in Wyoming so that we do not become another California or Colorado. I'm running for governor because I'm tired of young people leaving the state of Wyoming. And I'm tired of Wyoming being too unaffordable for families to stay here and that are struggling to make ends meet. I'm running for governor because I intend to build a strong economy in the state of Wyoming and to modernize and create more efficiencies in state government. When I ran for superintendent 4 years ago, I told you exactly what I planned to do, and then I did it. That's the kind of leadership and action that we need out of our policymakers in Cheyenne. That's the type of leader that you'll get from me, and why I have the endorsement and support of President Trump and Congresswoman Harriet Hageman. We need bold, unapologetic leadership in the state of Wyoming so that we don't just survive, we don't just tread water, but we set the bar for the rest of this country to follow. I'm Megan Degenfelder, and I'm so happy to be with you tonight. Thank you for being here.
Mr. Bien, first and foremost, my apologies for mispronouncing your name. I tried very hard to make sure that I had everybody's last names correct, but I do apologize. And for the other candidates tonight, please feel free to correct me if I say anything incorrectly. All three of you did great, but just a friendly reminder as you go through these questions, make sure you do hold that microphone up nice and close to you so the people in the back can hear, but all of you did great there on your introductions. And then just one final reminder is that we do have 45 seconds to answer your first question. The first question is, the need for economic diversity has been a challenge for decades. What do you see as the most promising opportunities in the next 4 years, and what are the biggest challenges? Ms. Degenfelder, we'll begin with you.
Well, this is a fantastic question because we need a strong economy in the state of Wyoming if we expect our young people to be able to stay here. So for too long, I think we talked about diversification, about moving completely away from what we're good at instead of economic development. Focusing number one, the role of government is to get out of the way and ensure that we have a stable regulatory environment where we have deregulated and companies can prosper. Number two is focusing on baseline infrastructure. And then three is all about focusing on what we do best and then building out the value chain from that, looking at our legacy industries, and then looking at opportunities for more processing, more manufacturing, building out those industries that do provide a net return on investment. I have a master's degree in economics, and that's what it's about, a return on investment, not picking winners and losers, but really ensuring we can thrive.
Mr. Bien, we'll start with you next.
Yeah, I believe that government's role in business, without a doubt, is cutting taxes, deregulating, and making sure we never enforce environmental social governance scoring system and ensuring that we never shut this state down. So ultimately, these skill sets, all the businesses out there need certainty in the market. And we know right now that our energy policy is upside down. There's so many skill sets out there as we diversify actually in energy, and we can do that with rare earths and these other things. But we also need to look at what's in our schools, get CTE back in there, match those job sets that are out there with what's in our schools, and actually get this taught through to where these folks, when they graduate high school, they don't need to go to college. They can go right into the workforce with a job that's paying well.
Wyoming's economy is powerful. Energy, minerals, agriculture, tourism, and hospitality. Continuing to build those and strengthen those, whether it's protecting our public lands or expanding manufacturing, so we're taking the minerals out of the ground, but then we're building the fuels, nuclear fuels. We're doing those things. That's how we have an opportunity in Wyoming it's a diversification of our base. Our base is powerful. Let's make it work harder in Wyoming. Instead of exporting raw products, let's export the products, not our children, the products that other folks want, that we can build here. The manufacturing jobs come with that, and it's happening in Wyoming. Just in Cody, Wyoming, went to 2 manufacturing facilities that have a worldwide reach. You have that in this community too. Thank you.
If the state experiences a revenue shortfall, which programs or services would you prioritize for continued funding? And where would you look for budget reductions? Mr. Bien, we'll start with you.
Well, the first thing I want to do is audit everything. We have not done a statewide budgetary audit since 1989, and in perspective, that's when I was a junior at UW. So I want to know exactly what we've got going because we are the wealthiest state per capita in the nation. But I will tell you right now on my watch, those essential services, the fire, the police, and of course EMS, which is not necessarily an essential service right now, but I want to really take a look to see if it is, that are actually classified that way also. I do look to make sure that those types of funding actually do happen, and then we'll look through gap analysis to see what we can actually cut when the time comes. Because again, this is the government has a spending problem. It definitely doesn't have a revenue problem.
Ms. Degenfelder, Sorry, I got us out of order. I apologize. I'm going to keep you guys on your toes this one.
Well, first and foremost, there should never be a revenue shortfall. That just means that we're spending too much for the money that we take in. And so that's a problem with our expenditures. And so being able to look through our state agencies, being able to create efficiencies. I've now run one of the state's larger state agencies, as was one of only 2 state agencies to bring a reduced budget to the legislature. We cut duplicative programs. We look at how we can privatize more of state government. We ensure that we are spending within our means. And then we also ensure that we have a thriving mineral industry that pays the lion's share of taxes in this state. We ensure that we have tax revenue for the state to move forward.
Mr. Barlow.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the legislature passes the state's budget. It's a 2-year budget. The governor proposes that budget. Now, in my time in the legislature, we've had 3 shortfalls, and that's a shortfall in expected revenue. We budget based on what we hope to collect. And I've made the case to my colleagues in the legislature, and I'll keep doing it as the governor of Wyoming, that we need to go to a cash-based budget so that there is no budget revenue shortfalls while we're actually in a budget cycle. We have the money in the bank to pay the bills, and we can do something much more efficient and prudent when there are revenue shortfalls because they're not affecting current programs. We have time to actually make some meaningful changes as we see them.
And for our last question, how would you work with the legislature and other state offices to build a shared vision and ensure state government is moving in the same direction? Mr. Barlow.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've actually been in the state legislature. I understand the process. I understand where the pitfalls are. I understand how to be successful with the Wyoming legislature. And it comes down to relationships. It comes down to integrity, respect, and relationships. And I've built that for the last 14 years. We never kept track of how somebody voted. We kept track about how much they cared for their colleague, for their family, for their community. That's what's important in Wyoming. That's what's important, is building up our families, building up our communities, and then we will build Wyoming together. I have that experience. Working with other statewide electeds, you know, the auditor, the treasurer, secretary of state, and superintendent, absolutely. We have very key roles.
Please proceed, sir.
Okay, so much of this is about vision and planning and setting the objectives, and it's really bringing the people in from the get-go. The people have to know what's going on, and naturally, working with the legislature on those shared objectives is how we plan our future ahead. And folks, there's nothing in this state that we can't do. You know, we are the prime target in this nation, really in parts of the world, just because of what's underneath our feet right now, the minerals that we've been so blessed with. But we need to look for stability. We need to be able to exercise, folks, our state's sovereignty if or when the time comes, and stand up for the folks here. But the people have to be brought in the loop from the get-go. And it is about relationships. It's about relationships all the way across with all levels of state government to make sure we exercise those objectives to attain that vision.
Exactly what I've focused on the last 3.5 years as state superintendent of public instruction and have delivered. Being able to work across different branches of state government to get things done. That is why in just a couple of years, we were able to achieve historic literacy reform, historic school choice, historic parental empowerment. We were able to deliver in a short amount of time. I'm not interested in fireworks and tribalism. I'm interested in getting things done for the Wyoming people because our future depends on it.
Thank you. We'll move into our 2 minutes of closing, and Ms. Degenfelder, we'll begin with you.
Well, thank you again, everyone, for coming out tonight on this summer evening. The decision for the future of Wyoming is not going to be made in the hallways of the capital of Cheyenne. It really will be made in grassroots rooms just like this one. And so I appreciate you coming out and being interested in this race. We need bold, unapologetic leadership in the governor's office. I'm not interested in treading water. I'm interested in being a leader for this country. We have to ensure that there is a future for the next generations in the state of Wyoming. I come to you with energy experience, with education experience, and a track record of proven results for our conservative values in the state of Wyoming. When Wyoming became the first state in the nation to grant women the right to vote, we didn't give a rip what any other state thought about it. We said, this is what's best for Wyoming, and that's what we're going to do. What happened? The rest of the country followed. That's the type of leadership that we need in the governor's office, that is going to be productive, ensure that we have a strong economy, that our young people can stay here, that you all can afford to stay in your homes that you've been in for decades, and that we ensure that our government is working for the people, not working beyond the revenue that comes into it. We need strong leaders. We need strong leader in the governor's office. That is exactly what I will provide to you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being engaged in this race. I'm Megan Degenfelder. Today, early voting starts, and I humbly ask for your vote.
Ms. Barlow.
Thank you so much for your time. The number for the evening is 27. 27% of Wyoming's eligible voters participated in the last primary election. I'm going to assume that everybody in this room voted. That means 3 of your neighbors, friends, family, coworkers did not. And if those are young people, it's probably 5. We want a different Wyoming. We want to have a Wyoming that has a bright future for the next generations. We have to, 1, get them involved, and 2, encourage them to be a part of it. That is what my candidacy is about. Engaging people, showing up, listening, learning, and doing the work. You can do that. It was mentioned, today was the first day of early voting. The 18th of August is primary day. Actually, here's a really good idea. You could vote tomorrow, and maybe all those mailers would stop coming to your house. We'll take you off the voting list, right there. There you go. But seriously, folks, I want your consideration for three reasons. I've lived Wyoming, raised a family in Wyoming, been blessed to have that family here in Wyoming, made decisions about health care, made decisions about educating our children, worked Wyoming as a veterinarian, as a rancher. I've gone to the bank when things were working, and I've gone to the bank when things didn't. I've signed the front of the paycheck. I've served Wyoming. We believe in service. It's part of who we are as people of faith. We do it in our community, whether it's at the soup kitchen, the Boys and Girls Club, 4-H. We believe that. Kelly and I believe in service in our community, and I believe in service to the state of Wyoming. So if you live something, you've worked something, and you've served something, you've built the relationships to lead. My name is Eric Barlow. I'm prepared to lead Wyoming in a respectful and meaningful way. Thank you.
Folks, again, thank you. Thank you again for coming here tonight. Folks, this is about leadership. This is about the future of our great state, and it's about the future of our liberty. Because I will tell you right now, it's on the table. Both of those things are. And without our freedom, we have absolutely nothing. And recognizing that, folks, I am willing to go to the mat. I took an oath way back on May 11th of 1991 to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, and I will never, ever, ever give up that oath, folks. Again, I've seen this from the opposite ends. I've been on both ends of the rifle, and it's not pleasant. And it is a matter of standing up for this state, standing up for our state sovereignty. And, you know, gaining the recent endorsement from the Wyoming Republican Party, I will uphold all 23 planks of that and do everything I can to make sure that's carried through. But folks, this really is about you. Okay, this is about the greatness of Wyoming, the greatness of our nation, but it's about remembering who we are. Okay, we're Americans. We can never forget that. We're Wyoming Americans, so that puts us one step above all the other 49. And this is about you guys. This is about remembering just what we have in this great state. It's a matter of taking that back and returning it to the people. Because this nation and this state are strongest when the people are freest, folks. And that's how this state grows. It is. And folks, I will say no to federal overreach if it's not in the best interest of this state. I will exercise the 10th Amendment if we need to do that. Because again, it is about you. And all it takes is one state to lead. Because what I've seen, the greatest things across this state are, of course, the federal overreach, overtaxation, and the lack of trust. And I will do everything I can to regain the trust of the citizenry of this great state. So, folks, I'm asking for your vote on August 18th. Thank you very much.
We are now going to invite candidates for the Superintendent of Public Instruction to the stage. We have Chad Auer, Steve Harshman, Tom Kelly, and Sergio Maldonado. Yes, thank you. Thank you all. We'll begin with our 2-minute introductions, and Mr. Auer, we'll begin with you when you're ready.
Good evening, everybody. Chad Auer. I am running for state superintendent. I'd like you to hire me to be your next state superintendent because look, let me say it this way. Ronald Reagan once said that America is too great for small dreams. And I'm on a mission to make sure that our kids, all of our kids, whether regardless of race, gender, religion, disability, all kids are prepared to chase their American dreams. I think that it's also important that we have a superintendent that's going to embrace the future with courage and boldness, not shy away from it. I also think you deserve a superintendent with broad experience inside and outside Wyoming. I've been a public school teacher, principal, administrator. I've also worked in 2 state departments of education, most recently here. I've actually managed the State Department of Education in Wyoming. Served as a senior policy advisor to the governor in education, housing, tribal relations, regulatory reduction, digital innovation. I think you deserve a superintendent with a broad background. I'm a proud dad. I'm a UW grad, UW Law School. My wife and I, we have 3 kids, and we are about, like, literally, I could get a text, and our first grandkid's going to be on the way. So no offense, but that might be a little distracting to me. But hey, listen, I appreciate you folks being out here. This is important for those of you who, I met some folks who've already voted. So for those of you who haven't, give me a chance. I'd really like to get hired for this job. Thanks.
Mr. Harshman.
Thank you. Thank you, first of all, the Chamber, all of your good work to put this together, and all the good people of Sheridan County coming out today, and appreciate you being here and the opportunity to be here with you. And my name's Steve Harshman. My story is a Wyoming story. I was born and raised here, a little town south of here, Midwest Wyoming. It's been bypassed by the interstate now. It used to have thousands of pump jacks. We used to play kickball around the pump jacks on the playground, and was a company town back then, and so I was born in Casper, and youngest of 5 boys, had a tremendous upbringing. We had the fastest horse in town and the fastest motorcycle, and had 4 older brothers, my poor mother, and so we had a lot of freedom and a lot of fun and a great Wyoming upbringing, and you know, we played every sport and marched in a band and shot every critter that moved pretty much, and a lot of fishing and a lot of camping in the Bighorns, and So been really blessed. And so I went to Black Hills State. I wasn't good enough to play football at the University of Wyoming, and I played at Black Hills State and wrestled there. And I always tell kids, I've been a 40-year teacher and coach. The things that will change your life are the books you read and the people you meet. And most of us are probably here today, obviously our parents, and there's probably been some teacher in our life as well, and you can probably think of that person right now. And so it's been just really a tremendous honor. I've been at Natrona County High School for the last 36 years. Like everyone else, we're trying to figure out how to beat those Sheridan Broncs. But I've done a lot of work. I've been a 24-year legislator. First time I was ever in our state capitol is the day I was sworn in. I authored the Hathaway Scholarship, full-day kindergarten. I was Speaker of the House for 2 terms. I've chaired appropriations. That previous question with the governor about what to do in budget downturns, I can tell you about that. I've lived that because budgets are people. And I look forward to the conversations tonight, and thank you all for being here.
Mr. Kelly.
Good, we're live. Well, hello, Sheridan, my hometown, home court advantage. Thank you so much for being here tonight. My name is Tom Kelly. I'm running for state superintendent. I am a lifelong educator. I've worked in public schools, private schools. I've been a social studies teacher, a special education teacher, a university professor, and a university department head. I have a PhD in American government and a master's degree in education. It's not why I'm running. I'm also a husband, a father of 6 children, grandfather to 2 children, and I'm part of the 57%. The 57% of Wyomingites who were not lucky enough to be born here and looked at the other 49 states and made our home here. I brought my kids here. I brought my father here, who's here tonight. And that is because my family's my #1 priority. I'm also an extreme social introvert. And the good Lord saw fit, ironically, to gift me with public speaking and the ability to communicate and team building, even though I like to spend most of my time by myself. So I am not running. This is not for me. This is for my kids in the audience, the ones at home, my son Kane, who has Down syndrome, who attends the public schools, because this is more than being the head of the Department of Education. This is part of the top 5. State Land and Investment Board, investments. The future of this state rides partly on this position. And I get concerned when sometimes we think the things that happen outside our borders do not affect us. When corporations who have more cash on hand than our entire economy, when they have 3 times as many employees as our entire population, and when they eye us as a place to be a data lot, parking lot, I take pause with that. We have technological opportunities, but we don't have to have tech take advantage of us. Thank you.
Mr. Maldonado.
Well, to begin with, good evening, Sheridan, Wyoming, and everybody else. My name is Sergio, not surgery, Maldonado. But I'm okay with that. I was born in the metropolis of Riverton, Wyoming on a very cold February morning, as my mother told me, my first teacher. I grew up here, Wind River Reservation. I am both Northern Arapaho enrolled and Mexican American. My father's from Pihuamo, Jalisco. My mother's from here. I'm related to half of the people on the reservation. So I had to find a partner of 40 plus years, Mary Jane, and she's from Bonaparte, Iowa. I don't think we're related. But 40 years, we've got to know one another. And with that said, family is foundational to education. Our students, our children, our grandchildren see that. My mother had us reading by the time I was in 1st grade. When I was in 6th grade, she gave me this book. You know, I'd spend my summers here, but in Tucson. It was by Oscar Lewis, a novel. It was just a big book. It was called The Children of Sanchez. And she says, I want you to read this because this is a book about where your father is from, an indigenous man who worked hard within dire conditions, as well as people on a reservation. So it was my mother who was my first teacher. I am happy to represent the state of Wyoming as a superintendent of education, did my undergrad, Brigham Young, master's at ASU, and I am wrapping up, I'm a lifelong learner, my PhD in the College of Education at UYO. Love books, love the classroom, and I've been in many classrooms, learned from every one of my students. I think the most interesting one was at the FCI Phoenix, taught 10 years to brothers who were incarcerated, and the subject was alcohol, drug education / finding life success. Thank you.
Our first question this evening: how do you differentiate the roles and decision-making authority between your office, the Wyoming Board of Education, and local school boards? Mr. Maldonado, we'll begin with you.
I recognize that every agency that is involved in education has their own set of rules, a paradigm, if I may. But what's important as a state superintendent of instruction is to understand their roles, but most importantly, communicate what I would like to think, but more importantly, differentiate on the differences that we have. But the bottom line is, will we provide our students with an equitable distribution of teaching of education? Thank you.
Mr. Auer.
Great, thank you. Yeah, this is an important question because I believe and I have seen that the state superintendent of education here, of instruction here, is one of collaboration. And if you hire me, I'm going to be a collaborative leader, a thought partner with local school districts and boards, the State Board of Education. The Constitution and by statute, this job is pretty well hemmed in. The job description is pretty tight. We're allowed to do some things and not other things. We're an executive branch agency leader, not a member of the legislature. So we have to be a strong advocate for sound education policy. And you hire me, I'm going to be doing that.
Mr. Harshman.
Thank you. Yeah, and great question. I think the Superintendent of Public Instruction is a constitutional office, 1890. One of those, but it was 19, where the state legislature created the State Board of Education. And it's always this tug of war between executive and legislative branches, certainly in judicial branch. But the key is the superintendent is also a member of the State Board of Education. You're one of the voting members, and it's really important to attend the meetings, to build those relationships with the other board members from around the state. I know most of them. I know the chairman well, and to really, and then of course the legislature passes laws, and then we work to enforce those. But I think as much as anything, to be what we say matters. And when you're a leader at the top of that organization, your tone matters, and I'll set a great tone for our kids.
Thank you, Mr. Harshman. Mr. Kelly.
Thank you. There's really not a lot to add because the role of the superintendent is constitutionally delineated, and the State Board of Education, of course, is by statute, and the roles are fairly clear. So as a superintendent, the best thing to do would be to work with these organizations, work with the legislature, work all the stakeholders at this point, having open communication. What is most important, I think, is a leadership position, is be able to walk into a room and think to myself, not what can I prove, not what can I convince people of, but what can I learn while I'm here? And that's something I've done in the legislature and on the education committee, and I plan to bring that type of leadership also into the superintendent's office.
Administration and funding of K-12 education are constrained by the Campbell decisions. If you could change just one thing in those decisions, what would it be and why? Thank you for checking. Thank you for checking, yes. Would you guys like me to repeat that question? All right. Administration and funding of K-12 education are constrained by the Campbell decisions. If you could change just one thing in those decisions, what would it be and why? Mr. Kelly, we'll begin with you.
The Campbell decisions are the ones that have ruled that these schools were not being equitably and adequately funded at that point. I don't see anything that I really would like to change in the Campbell decision. subsequent decisions, particularly a recent one that the recalibration committee has had to consider, is I think there's been an overstepping of the judiciary into the legislative role to start dictating what constitutes an education. So the Campbell decisions themselves about being equitable with the funding, I don't see an issue with those. It's just some of what spawned afterwards, where now we have judges saying this is what education is and you must fund it, instead of letting the legislature determine what the education menu should be.
Mr. Maldonado.
It's fortuitous that you mentioned the Campbell decision because I came across it a couple days ago. But I like the responses so far. There's not a whole lot that we can change when it's already a decision via courts, whatever, and it's being administered. But what I do emphasize is that our education must be equitably distributed by quality teachers, administrators, and school boards. But it also must be embraced by families in the community. And this is something I stress a lot. Education is not just for our K-12 students in the building, it's also with our parents. Let's take the schools to the parents and the families also. Thank you.
Yeah, here's what I would like to change about that narrative and that story is that education funding in Wyoming, the judicial branch is way too involved in that. Now, I understand that there is reason for that, but I think we can do better. Honestly, I think that as a state superintendent, I recognize that deciding how much we should invest in public education with limited resources is difficult, but I will be an advocate for investing as much as we possibly can in education because it's the best economic development plan, it's the best insurance for continuance of our republic, and I also recognize it's a hard decision. No matter what we decide, what number, there's going to be some that think it's too much and others that think it's too little, but we don't.
Got a hard and fast rule here, Mr. Harshman. You're up next.
Okay, thank you. There's 4 Campbell decisions. Okay, one of them was with facilities, others with funding. The key thing, though, is that it ruled that it is the state's wealth, not individual school districts. See, I come from county number 1. It used to be the Midwest oil field, the richest county in Wyoming, 1937, right? You guys would be like number 7 or 8 now, not 3. Campbell would be number 1, but it's the state's wealth to educate our children. I think that was really important. I think part of this is that tug of war, the beautiful thing in our Constitution with 3 branches of government, and that'll continue. I think that's a great thing our founders have set up. It'll keep moving forward. Is it perfect? No. We don't have a perfect government, but it's a great system that balances power. Thank you.
For your last question this evening, what does school choice look like to you, and how could it impact K-12 education? Mr. Harshman, we'll begin with you.
Thank you. I'm the only person up here who's taught in a choice district my entire life. In the Trona County School District, kids can go anywhere. And as I traveled to 48 school districts, visited 46 that could meet with me, there are a lot of choice options already in Wyoming. I mean, there's choice in Sheridan County. You have kids moving between these 3 districts in this county. But I think you're probably referring to more charter schools. They're all public in Wyoming. We have private schools and we have homeschooling. There's probably nobody has coached more homeschool kids than me. The homeschool kids in Casper get their AA degrees at Casper College. We've done a great job, and I'm running for this job to support our kids. Because when Wyoming kids succeed, Wyoming succeeds, right? And I want it to be the place of my 4 children. So thank you.
Mr. Kelly.
School choice should be driven by parents. It should reflect what the parents of a community want. If it's charter schools, if it's taking advantage of ESAs if those are upheld, and allowing for private providers if somehow their children are falling through the cracks. And there's a real important reason for this. The number 1 factor of whether or not a child succeeds in education is how much the parents have buy-in, how much the parents are supporting them. And when parents have more say in how their children are educated, they will be much more involved. We will see greater success if we trust our educators and our parents more than we trust teachers' union or the dug-in status quo of what we currently have with the system. We'll save that for the end.
Thank you. Mr. Maldonado.
I've always maintained a simple premise: life is choice. And I'm glad to hear that my colleague says parents and education. It's those two in combination that can facilitate the success of every student that we have in Wyoming. And with that said, I've been in many different classrooms, administration also. I have long-term sub for the last 3 years at Wyoming Indian High School, number 14. And when I see parents make the school choice not to send their kids to school, I am very disappointed. Yet across this state, across America, we have students who are in need, and they must have that foundation in education that only comes about when parents and families and systems work together.
Mr. Auer.
Hello, okay. The judicial branch is in charge of my microphone, I think. They took exception to my comment earlier. Listen, I think that the future of public education is one that has a diverse curricular and instructional program. We have CTE, we have certainly core content, math, literacy, science, history, civics, et cetera, but we also have meaningful workforce readiness opportunities for kids where curiosity drives their journey through K through 12 education that, again, I think needs to be diverse and complements and cultivates that and meets that curiosity. I think America is struggling with this issue. How do we move forward? Because I also believe very strongly there's a bright line between public and non-public education. Funds that are meant to go to public schools need to stay on the public side of that line.
Mr. Auer, I'll have you begin with our closing statement so you can just roll right into that.
Wow, this has been tough. This has been tough. No, listen, this is a great honor to be here. And I just want to take a couple of minutes of my time to say how much I've enjoyed running for this office with these gentlemen up here. Good people. It's been a fun campaign. It's not over yet, but really quality folks. And even though we're competitive and we have distinctions, this has been an absolute honor. And frankly, I think you deserve a race that's not full of animosity. And you got one, the superintendent race. My closing comment before you put that sign up is that one of the other reasons I'm running for this is that we have an enormous opportunity. The United States Department of Education is diminishing, dismantling. Wyoming has an opportunity to take the reins, show America how to do public education. We can get waivers from a lot of the strings that come with the federal Department of Education, the federal footprint. We need to take the reins and show how we can honor and provide services to kids, like I said in the beginning, regardless of where they're at in life. We can, in Wyoming, show America how to do this right. You hire me as state superintendent, I'm gonna have my sleeves rolled up, I'll be available, I'm gonna be a partner with your school districts, I'm not gonna work against them, and we are gonna seize this moment.
Mr. Harshman.
Okay, thank you. And again, thanks for the opportunity and for coming out, and appreciate all these gentlemen throwing their hat in the ring. It has been an incredible race. As you vacation Wyoming is what I'm calling it. As I've traveled around, put 13,000 miles on my car. I've driven all these roads from Wyoming. I've driven them all, but some of them I haven't driven in decades. And it's been so amazing. The people of this state are so generous, so good, and so we got it so good, and there's so much abundance in this state. And I just tell you, running for this office really to put the focus on our kids. I don't think politics needs to go into our public school system. And let's teach our kids, make sure they graduate, ready to move on and live the American dream right here in Wyoming. My wife, it's going to be 39 years here this Saturday. Our 4 kids are all products of these great schools. Like Chad here, we're going to have our first grandbaby in October. My wife's just like doing jumping jacks. It's amazing, the whole thing. And so we're so blessed. And I want to preserve that for our kids and grandkids, the life that I had growing up here in Wyoming, the opportunities I had in our school systems. And I've put in more work. I've been a lifelong education policy person and done a lot of work. And I think working together, that's the key. We can do some real good. You know, Governor Hathaway's daughter called me a couple weeks ago and thanked me for naming the scholarship, offered her support for a sign in Cheyenne, and 50,000 kids have benefited from that. And most recently, I co-authored a bill to protect girls' sports. I got 2 girl athletes. I know what that's all about. And so common sense, Wyoming working together, we're going to keep our schools strong. And then it's about continuously getting better, just like you do here in Sheridan County. You got some of the best schools in the world right here. And we want to keep moving forward. So thank you all. Appreciate you.
Mr. Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone being here. Something I'd like to bring up that hasn't come up tonight, because this is one of the differentiations you'll see among us here. I'm very much a realist. I'm an optimist, but I'm also a realist. And another number I have tonight is 71%. That's according to the nation's report card. That is our 8th graders who are not proficient in reading in 8th grade. Now, Wyoming has one of the best public school systems in the entire country. That doesn't mean there's no room for improvement. And the way I see forward for a room for improvement is we have to end this vision of the state mandating to the districts, down to the teachers, down to the kids' success, because ultimately it's what's best for the kids. I agree with Steve on that. He's correct. That's what this is about. It's not about protecting a government monopoly system. It's not about protecting the power of a union. It is about kids having the best results so we don't have so many taking remedial math and reading when they get to community college. That is happening. And teachers get demoralized because when we have results that we don't like, that's the first people it comes down on. But when they have a long list of checklists and boxes to fill out and reports to fill out for the WDE, that wastes time and resources that could be spent on the kids, on administration, and then we get upset at our local districts for having top-heavy administration. I would like to continue what Superintendent Degenfelder has been doing about paring back the size of the administration, paring back how many mandates there are, how many reports there are to file, and just trust our professional educators who go into this because they love it, they stay in it because they're good at it. Trust them to lead with the kids on this point, and the state should be a support role. And I will go around from district to district and say, what can I do to make your job easier, rather than walk in there and say, I've got a plan and it's one size fits all and everyone will follow it. So thank you very much, everyone, for being here. And I've got Sergio's sign in my yard.
Thank you to all of you who have come here to listen to what we propose. Education is so foundational to our lives, our children, to my life. I like the words that have been said here. You can tell already that we're in harmony with a lot of policy, procedure, practices, etc. Having been a classroom teacher throughout my life, I've seen what goes on. But what we don't see is what's happening behind those walls. We only see them when they are in our classroom. I feel that I've been preparing for this for a long time, almost like if it's a cosmic job that I have to be of service. I want to share this also. I was appointed to NACE, the National Advisory Council on Indian Education, by George H.W. Bush, President of the United States, a while back ago. Served a 2-year term, but we worked closely with Secretary of Education, Terrence Bell. I only met the gentleman twice, but what an honor it was to be of service at a national level and then to move around the country to different reservation schools, the poorest of school districts, if I may say, but the richest in culture, in identity. I am Northern Arapaho, I am Mexican American, and I look forward to being of service for our students in the state of Wyoming as your state superintendent of public instruction. Thank you.
They shut you off. I don't have any control over here, unfortunately. Okay. We'll go ahead and invite up our candidates for Secretary of State. Tonight we have Quentin Oviatt and Robert Short.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Robert. Very nice to meet you. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Before we turn the mics over to our candidates, I do have a statement from a candidate that could not join us this evening, Rachel Rodriguez Williams. Her statement is as follows. I'm sorry I couldn't join you in person today, but I hope to earn your trust and support in the months ahead. The Secretary of State's office is where every Wyoming business gets registered, and where red tape is either created or cut. As Secretary of State, I'll cut it, streamlining registration and protecting the low-tax, free market climate that makes Wyoming the best place in the country to build a business. My record in the legislature, where I've earned a perfect 100% Club for Growth rating, fighting for exactly these priorities, proves my conservative commitment to pro-business policies. It's also one of the reasons current Secretary of State Chuck Gray has endorsed me to run for the office. Please check out my website at williams4wyoming.com to learn more about my campaign. Mr. Oviatt, we'll begin with you to provide our 2-minute introduction statement.
Okay, well, thanks again for everybody coming out and having me tonight, having all of us. My name is Quentin Oviatt. I'm from Fremont County, where I'm a proud graduate of Lander Valley High School and the University of Wyoming, where I earned degrees in psychology and environment and natural resources. I'm running because I believe I bring a diverse, real-world experience to this race. I've worked in Wyoming's oil fields. I've worked in Antarctica for the National Science Foundation for several deployments, and I've worked for conservation organizations, and I've built small businesses in this state. I'm an Eagle Scout, I'm a certified mediator, and I currently serve as an academic advisor at Central Wyoming College. I'm not a career politician. This is the first office I've ever run for. I've worked real jobs, solved real problems, and learned how to bring people together instead of tearing them apart. I'm running because I believe Wyoming's government is sick and is suffering from an excessive amount of political infighting. We need practical, collaborative leadership, and it needs to focus on results instead of endless political drama. I believe that we can continue to have secure elections in this state, protect our businesses from scammers, and restore trust in our institutions. Thank you, and I look forward to answering your questions tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Short?
Thank you to the Chamber for putting on this event, and thank you all for attending. My name is Robert Short. I grew up in Glen Rock. I had an opportunity in the 1980s to find a way to make a living, and in doing so, I achieved a degree in electrical engineering and computer science. That took me around the world working in nuclear science, learning all kinds of interesting things. In 2004, I was able to bring my skills back to my state to build opportunities for kids to stay here through multiple business ventures. At one point, I achieved the I guess, noble recognition of being the largest private employer in Commerce County. I really do understand what it means to run businesses in Wyoming and build opportunities for our children. In 2014, I was elected as a Commerce County Commissioner. This has been a wonderful opportunity for me to engage with people across our state and create collaborative working groups that help serve the people of Wyoming. And that's something that's very important to me. As Secretary of State, there's a multitude of roles that are both constitutionally and statutorily defined. Obviously, one of those is related to elections. As a former election judge, I've served multiple times, and I understand how elections are run in our state. And I think that our county clerks who are charged with running elections do a spectacular job, as do the volunteers who spend a great amount of time helping them. As a businessman, I understand what filings look like and how important it is that we have transparent and very accessible systems for businesses to operate in Wyoming. And as a guy who understands financial instruments, it's incumbent on me to help educate our seniors to keep them from being scammed by those bad folks who want to utilize our business environment to do harm. And please learn more about me at shortforstate.com.
Our first question is, what would be your approach to optimize revenue streams while protecting businesses and consumers? Mr. Short.
Great question. In the last session, Barry Crago from Johnson County, just south of here, introduced a bill to try to start to address this problem. Obviously, the Secretary of State's job is to enforce the laws that the legislature creates. Now, there are some rulemaking room for the Secretary to do a few creative things, but without that legislative structure in place, the Secretary's hands are very much bound by statute. So I want to work with the legislature to make sure that we move the needle on registered agents in our state so that there is accountability and that scammers are not able to build businesses that are using your address as their home address, because that really isn't well. But keeping in mind our LLC laws are critical for our businesses to thrive.
Mr. Oviatt.
There we go.
There it is.
Yeah, I agree with Robert. You have to work with the legislature. The business filings are one of the major sources of revenue that comes into our state. And you don't want to kill the golden goose, but so many fraudulent actors, bad actors, are taking advantage of that right now. And if that continues, it's going to drag everything down into the mud, all of us, and legitimate businesses potentially might abandon the state. So we really need to crack down on that, stop the fraud, make it easier to file, make it easier for the men and women who work in the Secretary of State's office to do their job and be more efficient.
What election improvements, if any, would you prioritize if elected? And how would you work with county election officials to ensure consistent administration across the state? Mr. Oviatt, we'll begin with you.
Okay. Well, the first thing is you listen to the county clerks. They're the ones, they're the boots on the ground. They're the ones doing the job day in and day out. They know their county's the best. They know what they need. They're the ones who are doing the job, and we need to support them. They're asking for a little bit more training. They're asking for some of them to have a little bit more of an overarching set of rules for the whole state. Not completely, but just a little bit if they want that. So that's the goal, is to work with them and to answer the phone when they call. Right now, it seems like, from what I've heard, they make a phone call, they send an email, and it's crickets. I know that won't be the case if I'm elected Secretary of State. I don't believe that'll be the case if Robert Short's elected Secretary of State. And communication, that's what it's all about.
Mr. Short.
Thank you, Quentin. I believe that the laws that have been passed in recent legislative sessions need to be put into action before we make any more changes to our election code, because we don't know the effects of the laws that have been passed in the last session, for example. And without understanding the implications of those laws, we could further burden ourselves with unnecessary regulation. And being a Republican, we're all about lower regulatory environments. However, we recognize that continual improvement is the imperative. And as a guy who's run multiple multi-billion-dollar businesses, Continual improvement is how you get there. The county clerks do a great job. They need support from the Secretary of State to ensure that they have a person who's a partner, not a persecutor.
As a member of the State Lands and Investment Board, what will be your primary considerations when making decisions? Mr. Short.
My primary concern when making considerations for loans and investment is really how does it have an impact for the people of Wyoming? Because it's imperative that if we're going to utilize tax dollars, it needs to be in a way that actually has a positive impact for the people of our state. Just giving money for the sake of giving money, well, hey, I'm here from the government, I'm here to help. It hasn't worked out all that well many times. We've seen it. And there's no more governmental thought process than there's nothing money can't solve. Well, that's not accurate. You have to be thoughtful, data-driven, and really understand what are the implications and what are the potential positive outcomes, and that will drive my decision-making.
Mr. Oviatt.
Well, two things will come into account when I'm making those decisions: radical transparency and bodacious collaboration. We need to bring both of those to every aspect of anything that the investment board looks at to generate revenue for our state. We need to work with the local people, the local citizens, anywhere where they might be affected, so we don't have issues where they feel that they've been neglected or not informed and then are suddenly inconvenienced by something that the state has decided will generate revenue. They should be brought into the process, listen to them, and explain what's happening, and taken into account everyone's opinion. So, yeah, transparency, collaboration.
Thank you. We'll move into our closing statements. And Mr. Oviatt, if you could begin for us.
All right. Well, thanks again for having me. I'd like to close my time tonight with something a little different. You may know that earlier today, the Wyoming GOP announced their endorsements for our state primaries, even though state law makes it a misdemeanor for any party to spend money or resources backing one candidacy over another before the voters have a chance to decide. The party is currently suing to overturn this law, yet they're moving forward anyway. I refused to seek this endorsement despite multiple requests from the party to do so, because I felt it was hypocritical for our party to stand on the pillars of law and order and then openly violate that law, rather than trusting in the courts to resolve it legally. In Wyoming, our real contest is in the primary, and when our party insiders pick the winners ahead of time, it moves our election process dangerously away from the democracies that our founders envisioned. This election belongs to you. It belongs to all of us. And on August 18th, I hope all the voters will study their ballots and choose candidates who trust Wyoming families to decide and not party headquarters. That's always been the way Wyoming has run, and I think it should be the way we continue. Thank you, and God bless Wyoming.
Mr. Short.
I'd like to echo what Quentin just said. However, I'm not going to go through all of that. I really do believe that it's imperative that the Secretary of State follows the law, because that's the job, is to enforce the law. But furthermore, the Secretary of State needs to bring experience to the office that's relevant to the office. Business experience, elections experience, financial experience, experience leading, experience guiding, experience coaching, experience in inspiring, as well as collaborating. As a county commissioner, I've done all of these things in addition to my private life. It's very important to me to serve the people of Wyoming. This is where I grew up. This is my home. I'm very passionate about my home. It's important for me to see your great-great-grandchildren have the same benefits that I have. And somebody long ago did this for me. I never met them. My idea is very simple. Plant the seed of the tree whose shade I shall never sit in, because the children of your children's children will benefit from that. And we need a long-term vision to ensure that our state has the opportunity to prosper and our young people have a reason to stay here. As Secretary of State, I understand how important it is to help educate our kids on financial opportunities as well as fraud, and also our seniors to help protect them from the scams that are propagating across those little devices that we all hold so near and dear to us. I think it's incredibly important that we listen to voices around us and that we make decisions that are not rooted in emotion and the loudest clamoring around, but rather thinking about the best benefit for the people near to us, our friends, our neighbors, our families. Thank you all for being here. I'm Robert Short. Would very much appreciate your consideration.
Well, I forgot to say, I'm the only short guy on the ballot.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for doing this for us.
Thanks again.
Thank
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Time out of your day. Thank you so very much. Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Next up, we have State Senator for District 21, Melissa Butcher. Oh, here.
Oh, I didn't see. I already can't follow instructions.
All right, you get to have the floor this evening. So if you want to go ahead and have your introduction, and then your 2-minute introduction, we'll ask some questions.
All right, thank you. Thanks to everyone for being here tonight. Thank you to the Chamber, the Government Affairs Committee, and to everyone who came here tonight. My opponent couldn't be here tonight. I understand that he had a family reunion that had been scheduled for a long time, so respect to him for putting family first. My name is Melissa Butcher. I'm running to represent you in the Wyoming State Senate because I believe our state deserves thoughtful, principled, and constructive conservative leadership. I also want to apologize to you for the abuse that I'm putting upon you with my lack of voice this evening, and thanks to Verl for turning up the volume. For more than 35 years, I've helped Wyoming businesses, communities, and organizations make decisions that shape their future. Today, my husband and I, who have been married for 24 years, we own a Nominate Coffee House and Bakery in Ranchester and the Outpost here in downtown Sheridan. We also own the Lazy R Campground in Ranchester. Like many Wyoming business owners, I've signed the front and the back of the paycheck, worried about meeting payroll, hired employees, navigated regulation, and seen firsthand how the decisions made in Cheyenne affect families and small businesses. Those experiences have shaped how I think about government. I don't believe leadership is measured by how quickly we say yes or how proudly we say no. It's measured by whether our decisions leave Wyoming stronger than we found it. If I'm elected, I won't begin with ideology or assumption. I'll begin with questions. What problem are we trying to solve? Is there a legitimate public benefit? Is government the right tool? And are we being responsible with taxpayer dollars? Most importantly, what are the long-term impacts? That's the kind of conservative leadership I hope to bring to Cheyenne.
What should the Wyoming legislature's role be in helping Wyoming residents afford and access health care?
This is the #1 issue that I have heard. I mean, there are a lot of issues as I'm visiting with people around the district, but I will tell you that healthcare is the one that is the growing urgency for people in Wyoming. And of course, the legislature has a limited role in this. This is like many of these issues, it's a macro issue, right? It requires a breadth of understanding, it requires study, it requires a lot of different moving parts. But I do think there are things that we can do in Wyoming to bring healthcare costs down for people in the district, in District 21. Oh.
Should the state require stricter verification of registered agent information to reduce fraudulent business filings? Why or why not?
You know, this was mentioned earlier in the Secretary of State discussion, and I believe that, you know, we do need to look at those. We certainly, not only are we seeing more and more outside companies that may or may not be, in fact, bringing benefit to our community, using our structure to bring their LLCs to Wyoming, or to create an LLC in Wyoming. But I think we're also starting to see foreign powers start to take advantage of that as well. And so to the point that was made earlier, I do believe that we need to be careful about not impacting the business-friendly environment that we have created here in Wyoming.
These go fast.
Boom, it does.
How will proposed property tax exemptions impact revenue at a local level, and what can the legislature do to support cities and counties if this were to happen?
Well, there's two things on this. I think number one, we definitely are seeing some impacts to especially some small communities as a result of the 25% reduction. However, I believe, as I'm going around talking to folks in the different communities and in the county, that many of those have been able to be absorbed. The bigger concern would be the 50% that's on the ballot in November. I would have liked to have seen us take some time for the 25% impacts to be absorbed and understood better. My concern is that we don't have a depth of understanding of what that 50% is going to do. Obviously, we will adapt, but I think it's going to be one of the most critical things before the legislature in the next session is to figure out what to do about that loss of revenue for our municipalities and counties.
Thank you. Mrs. Butcher, do you have any final thoughts? You got 2 minutes.
Okay. You've heard a lot of discussion this evening about specific issues, and those issues definitely matter. But long after this election, there will be new issues that we can't even begin to anticipate today. And that's why I think that the decisions we make in the ballot box on August 18th have to do with something deeper, and that is judgment. The people of Senate District 21 aren't simply electing someone to hold opinions. You're electing someone to make difficult decisions on your behalf, even when there isn't an easy answer. Throughout my career, when working with communities across Wyoming, helping businesses navigate challenges, running my own businesses, I've learned that good decisions begin with listening. They require asking thoughtful questions, understanding those consequences, and balancing competing priorities with humility and common sense. That's the approach I will bring to every vote in Cheyenne. I believe Wyoming succeeds not by shrinking the state for the sake of shrinking, or by fighting for the sake of fighting, but by faithfully stewarding our resources, institutions, and the freedoms that generations before us entrusted to our care. My commitment is simple. I'll seek understanding before certainty. I'll evaluate every issue on its merits. I'll treat every taxpayer dollar with respect. And I'll work every day, most importantly, to leave Wyoming stronger for the next generation, which is the main reason that I am running for this office. It would be an honor to earn your vote, and more importantly, your trust. Thank you.
Next up, we have State Representative, District 29. I'd invite Micah Strudevant and James Temple to the stage. All right. We'll go ahead and move right into our 2-minute introduction, and Mr. Levin, we'll begin with you.
James and I were just saying we can't see you from up here, so anyway, we can hear you. That's good. My name is Micah Sturdivant, and I'm running for Wyoming House District 29. I'm a small business owner and a mom who came to Wyoming with a dream of a simpler life, mountain adventures, and a chance to put down real roots. I did that after I met a man on an airplane. If you want to hear that story, you can find me after. What I didn't expect was how much Wyoming would change me. My husband Nate and I choose every day to build our life here. And this campaign is a way of giving back to our community that has given us so much. As the owner of Whirly Girl Flowers, I've spent years learning how to listen carefully, work within real budgets, and find practical solutions without losing sight of what matters, especially to the person in front of me. I realize the scale of that is small compared to the state, but it's practical experience. That's exactly how I want to serve District 29. I believe that the most important part of the legislative process is listening to the people that I represent, not any platform. Getting out door to door every evening has been the highlight of this campaign. I've got about 400 doors left to knock, so if I haven't been to your house yet, I'll see you soon. If elected, my focus will be building a future Sheridan families can count on, supporting Wyoming's business community, strengthening our schools, and making sure the next generation has every reason to stay and build their lives here too. My kids are really, really, really proud to be from Wyoming, and whenever we leave, they interrupt strangers on the street to tell them they're from here. I want them to be able to always be here. A strong Sheridan makes for a strong Wyoming. Thank you.
Mr. Temple.
Good evening, and thank you for coming out. Don't let the Southern accent fool you. I am 100% Wyomingite. My family and I moved here 7 years ago for the very values and lifestyle that this state affords, and especially here in Sheridan. We've come to love it and be a real detailed part of the community. Sheridan has actually changed us quite a bit for the better. This is America 50 years ago. This is why we came here. It was a simpler time back then. This is the way people should treat one another. A handshake should mean something. Telling somebody that you're going to do something is giving them your word and should mean something. My background is the U.S. Air Force. I was a police officer and a detective for years on a police department on the East Coast. I did federal background investigations for Federal Investigative Services Division of the U.S. Office of Personnel Management. Coming to Sheridan, I also worked as the elections director here in the county. So I have a vast knowledge of elections and how they should work. The main reason that I'm actually running is because I feel like we're at a crossroads in the state of Wyoming in 2026 where we have got to keep pushing the true conservative nature of what the Republican Party used to be. Lower taxes, people's rights, property rights, repealing some of the legislations that have infringed upon those rights, and trying to amend or correct bills that do the exact same thing. I can only gripe about it so long before I have to step up and actually be willing to run for it. I do embrace the Republican Party platform because it's a platform that was voted on by the citizens of Wyoming over 8 years ago, and it still stands today. They actually do get to say what a Republican is.
For our first question, would you vote to support the airline subsidy to Sheridan? Why or why not? Mr. Temple.
So you've actually hit on a topic that I have very little knowledge of. I will say that I'm not a big fan of subsidies because basically it's just a dirty word for our taxpayer dollars being given to business. But being honest with everyone here, I would actually have to read up on that particular issue in order to make an educated statement.
Thank you, Ms. Sturdivant.
I would support the subsidies because we care about business in Wyoming and we care about attracting good paying jobs to Sheridan County. And the reality is, if we want to recruit and maintain companies that will invest in our community and bring good paying jobs that will then bring dollars back into our community, we have to have air service. If we don't have access to air service, we probably don't get things like Weatherby. We don't get to keep Kennan. We don't get VacuTech. If we want more opportunities for responsible economic development, we have to maintain air service. I would say yes.
Next question. What are your top 3 priorities for the state budget, Ms. Trudevant?
In all my conversations at doors, there's lots of things that come up repeatedly. Property taxes comes up at the majority of doors. Access to healthcare comes up a lot, and our school system comes up a lot. I think those things have all been going through the legislature. I think we need to see how some things work out. We definitely need to come up with some Wyoming solutions to those things to actually answer the people that are asking for them.
Mr. Temple.
Question for me, please.
Absolutely. What are your top 3 priorities for the state budget?
So, as my opponent has said, tax reform is a big priority for us statewide. Not the tax breaks, the 25%, the 50%, but actual reform across the board is something that we need to be looking at, and we need to formulate a plan of attack. And we need to go back to the pre-COVID rates of living and expenses that we utilize. Pardon me. You know, we're 76% increase statewide in property tax between 2019 and 2026, and that's unacceptable.
And our final question for the evening. How would you evaluate whether a state program is delivering value for taxpayers, Mr. Temple?
Well, it would depend on what the state program is. If we're talking things like health care, I don't believe the government should have any role in health care. We shouldn't be involved in that. If we're talking about taxes, then I believe we need to reduce regulations on businesses. We need to allow the free market to do what it does best and breed competition, which is what gives us the quality of businesses and the quality of life that we as Wyomingites appreciate and have the freedoms to enjoy.
Ms. Trudevant.
Can you repeat the question? I have like part of it.
Absolutely. How would you evaluate whether a state program is delivering value for taxpayers?
All right. I'm not a lobbyist or a lawyer or a politician, at least not yet. And I think when I'm evaluating things in Cheyenne, it would be with the lens of how does this impact Sheridan County? Is it going to help the working families here? Is it going to support business here? Is it going to meet the needs and meet those top 3 priorities that people are telling me at the door?
Thank you. And we'll move into our closing statements. Ms. Trudevant, if you can please start us off.
All right, I'm probably not going to use my 2 minutes because short and sweet is good. Republican voters deserve a representative who is accountable to them, not to a party apparatus or outside interests. That's exactly what I offer. I value a limited government. I value personal property rights, local control, and fiscal responsibility. I don't just talk about these principles, I've lived them as a small business owner, navigating real budgets, real decisions, and real consequences every single day. What makes me different is that I come with no fixed agenda and no political debts. I'm coming listening to you. I'm not beholden to anyone in Cheyenne. The only people I answer to are my neighbors in District 29. And in District 29, we really are all neighbors. I can walk to pretty much everybody's house. It's great. I've spent this campaign going door to door, listening first and talking second. That's not just a campaign strategy. That's how I run my business, and it's how I'll serve in legislature. Republican voters deserve someone who will show up and listen, and I will. Thank you for being here tonight and for the Chamber for hosting us, and I hope I can earn your vote. My name's Micah Sturdivant.
And Mr. Temple.
So yes, I too want to thank the Chamber for organizing this event. It's been very well run, and we really do appreciate it. I'm not going to give you any platitudes or campaign promises on my closing speech. What I do want to relay to you is I was actually talking to a gentleman in the lobby here in between forum groups that were up here, and he was telling me this amazing background that he has that makes mine just dwarf compared to his. I mean, the things he's done, the life he's led. And he's from Sheridan County, and he and his wife were looking to come back and move here, and he said, he said, because of the taxes and the cost of living in Sheridan County now, I cannot move back here. We're actually having to look at the Dakotas. How sad is that? That somebody who's a very accomplished professional in life and has been wise with money has to look at Sheridan County, which is where he's from, it's his home, and say that he can no longer afford to live here. His dream of coming back and being a part of Sheridan is no more. We need to think about that. We need an awakening in this state as far as what we're doing on our taxes. We need an awakening in this state as far as how we're misspending the taxpayer funds that we have. It's not the government's money, it's your money, every one of you out there. And that goes for the state, the county, and the city. These are things we should be looking at. Do we really want to repel the people that are dreaming of coming back here one day because they had to go elsewhere due to a career, and then they can't afford to come back to the very city that they actually love? I think we should be able to do a lot better. And in Cheyenne, I'm going to support any efforts to make it better for the average citizen to be able to come in and afford to live in the state, but also in the counties where they're from. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have State Representative, District 30. I invite Mark Jennings and Ryan Kultiska up. Mr. Jennings, I'll have you start off with our introduction of 2-minute statement, please.
Could we have somebody holler out there so we know you're still there?
I know. There we go.
My name's Mark Jennings, and I'm running again for your state representative, House District 30. Tom Kelly, who was up here earlier, is now running for the Wyoming School Superintendent. And so I put my name back in the hat because I have a number of things that I'd still like to work on. My personal history is that I moved here a little over 21 years ago. Been a youth pastor, been a pastor for quite a number of years. I've been head of maintenance in factories, supervised numerous employees. My wife of 45 years, I think, is back over here somewhere. We have 3 children. One works in Texas. The other is one of your county commissioners. And our youngest daughter works for the current Secretary of State. We have those 3 children and 2 grandchildren. I would still like to be involved in seeing that we reform property tax, not just the rebates. While I was in, I voted for those because they did help people, as we should. But I really think the fundamental problem is we should not be taxing an unrealized capital gains. And so that was probably my number 1 issue. Number 2 is our spending policy. I think we need to really tighten that up. We currently have a pretty expensive. If we can steal it, we'll spend it. It's what the place is in Cheyenne believes. We're very blessed to be here. Wyoming is by far the greatest state, and God has blessed us a lot with a lot of minerals and legacy industry, and I'd just like to see us continue moving forward with that. Thank you.
Mr. Koltiska.
Thank you. Well, I'm Ryan Koltiska, and I'm also running for House District 30, so it works out well that we're both up here at the same time. I was born and raised here. Actually spent a lot of time on this stage, but never on a debate or on a forum. Married to my wife, Ashley, and we've been married for 15 years, and we have 4 kids that we raise, and they are a joy. I started getting interested in the Wyoming legislature actually as part of Leadership Sheridan that I went through with the Chamber of Commerce. And that was in 2009. And so it kind of piqued my interest at that point in my life. And throughout the years, I continued having conversations with legislators, and just the older I got and the more I learned, the more it just continued to pique my interest and grow, and understanding how legislation affects our everyday life. And so that's why I am now sitting up here. We are the people, and it turns out that eventually the we the people part, you turn to the we is me. And so I threw my name in the hat as well. Throughout my career, I've had the privilege of serving this community for most of my career in different ways. I was a pastor here for 15 years, and then actually worked with the Sheridan County Chamber of Commerce for several years, supporting local businesses and economic growth. I wish I would have got the critical air service team question, because I was on that. And now I'm the director of development at the Hub on Smith, and I really care about making sure that families can live here and work here and raise their families here, and I care about making sure that we're spending and saving and investing in the right places. Thank you.
For our first question this evening, what decisions should be made locally rather than by the state legislature? Mr. Koltiska.
I think one really big one that comes up because it's been talked about a lot lately as we all talk to our constituents is education. And I think the closer we are to the issues, the better we are at solving the problems. I mean, we talked today already about it being all the way to the parents, but just making sure that the state isn't pulling back funding to a level at the state that's not working for local districts.
Mr. Jennings.
I think as much as possible should be done at the local level because it's to the grassroots. The state has a different role, and I think that's one that we as citizens need to look at very carefully. What is local and what is at the state level has to be dealt with. When local doesn't deal with it, then state many times is dragged into it, and it's unfortunate when that happens. More of it should be dealt with local.
How do you see the state diversifying the economy beyond energy, and what should the role of the legislature be, Mr. Jennings?
The role of the legislature is just like I said in the last one. The role of government and the role of society are two different things. And we should, as far as diversifying, we should make a friendly environment for entrepreneurs to come and have they're the best. They're the best at what they do. And the government should stay out of the way every opportunity they have.
Mr. Koltiska.
I think one of our greatest strengths as a state like ours is our small businesses. And we have an amazing opportunity right now through technology that our small businesses can reach across the world. And so just making sure that we are focusing on making sure that we have a pro-business environment, because we have such great opportunities. It is so amazing to see what is being created even locally here in Sheridan County and what is being sent across the world. And so our small businesses really make it go, and that is something that I think is really important at the legislative level to make sure we give them the opportunity.
Provide a brief description of Wyoming's education block grant and how recent legislation has impacted it. Mr. Koltiska.
Yeah, the block grant gives each district a certain amount of funds to run their school district. And one of the biggest effects it's had recently is that the certain districts have been able to overcome it in different ways, but the silos where the money goes have affected how different funding is distributed for activities versus teachers. And I know for Sheridan County, the districts were able to adjust, but I have talked with people around the state where the districts were not able to adjust, and it affected how they were able to function as a district.
Mr. Jennings.
So the block grant has been in place for a long time, Campbell decisions in Washakie, and I think that the main issue has been that the legislature, like a couple of years ago, set out an 8% raise, and it was not gone to the teachers, had not. Only one district did that. And so I think that it has an impact that we have to look at siloing to put that money back in the classroom. I think it's very important to go to those teachers and into the classroom itself instead of administration.
Thank you. We'll move into your closing statements, and we'll start with Mr. Jennings.
So we would agree on quite a number of things, I think, but I think there's some differences that we look at for government. I think that we need to be looking at what is truly government's role and what is social, what is our role, because you don't get this level of freedom without responsibility. And we have far too long looked for government to take care of all of our problems. It's become almost a nanny state. And we need to go back and look at what is my responsibility? What am I taking the responsibility of towards freedom? Or pretty soon we're likely to lose those freedoms. And I, for one, do not want to see my kids have less freedom than what I had growing up. And so I think it's a very serious time in our country that we look at what is the actual role of government. Should we have forced charity? Should we be helping at a societal level? And I think it's very critical that we begin to look at the society side of this as taking the responsibility for the things that the good Lord has given us.
Mr. Koltiska.
Yeah, I think I've got a couple things that I'd like to talk about. One is that, and I believe we do disagree on that, and I believe what we disagree on, what is essential. And I believe taking care of the poor, the weak, and the vulnerable is essential for those that do not have the ability to take care of themselves. And I don't think that we should be giving handouts, but there are people in our state who need the government to stand up and fight for them, and that, I would say, is the poor, the weak, and the vulnerable. One really important characteristic about me is that I'm a solutions guy. On leadership tests I take, I am the guy that I collect all the information, I get all the data, and then I make the decision. My kids at home call me Mr. Fix-It because I always have a bottle of super glue on hand. And I feel in my career and in my life, I'm also the guy that's looking on how to fix. And as a legislator, that would be how I would run. I would collect all the data. I would get all the information in order to make the decision. It wouldn't start with answers. It would start with questions. And that's really important to me. It was important to me. It's important to me in my roles that I serve now. It's important to me in my home. And it would be important to me as I serve Wyoming. And so I'd really appreciate your vote and being able to step into House District 30 to represent Sheridan County.
Next up, we have State Representative, House District 40, Marilyn Connolly and Mark Jones. Thank you both for joining us. We'll start with your introduction statements, and for 2 minutes, Ms. Connolly.
Thank you. I'm just going to read this because I don't want to forget anything. I feel like Wyoming's facing some unique challenges, including our economic dependence on energy and other natural resources, tax revenue, rural health care shortages, and aging infrastructure. Also, there are environmental concerns. There's water issues, there's significant public health challenges, and I want to be a part of the solution with these challenges in the next couple of years. I'm running because my record reflects homegrown, traditional, conservative Wyoming. Responsible spending, lower taxes, support for veterans, private property rights, support law enforcement, fire, EMS, search and rescue, and small businesses. I will protect what is working and fix what isn't. I have some priorities. I will support policies to keep coal, oil, natural gas, agriculture, and mining strong while encouraging value-added agriculture, advanced manufacturing, and emerging energy technologies. My goal is to create, as a legislature, more of a framework for businesses to operate in, for good-paying jobs, keep young people in Wyoming, and diversify our economy without abandoning the industries that built this state. I'll work to improve access for health care, mental health services, strengthen EMS services and infrastructure, expand workforce housing opportunities, support our veterans and our seniors. Wyoming families expect government to live within its means, just as I do. I will continue to fight for responsible budgeting, reducing unnecessary government spending, protecting our state's savings. I will support providing meaningful property tax relief while ensuring counties, municipalities, services are provided.
Mr. Jones.
Thank you. Woo! Thank you, and thank you to the Chamber for hosting this event. Thank you to the people that came out tonight and who are still hanging in. My name is Mark Jones. I'm running to be the representative in House District 40, which is all of Johnson County and parts of Sheridan County. I'm a father, 2 children. I'm a husband, a son. I'm a man that spent a whole career working as a big game and small game biologist, basically as a scientist, working with wildlife, and I retired. I went to work as a Second Amendment advocate working in Cheyenne and as a second career, and that's where I learned that the state of Wyoming is changing very rapidly. I'm a conservative, constitutional conservative, platform Republican, and what I learned in spending time there is that Democrats have infiltrated the Wyoming Republican Party, run as Republicans, and they're rapidly changing this state. Ms. Connolly just talked about that she was a fiscal conservative, but she voted for almost every spending increase that was proposed in the budget in the last session. So we have 2 contrasting styles. You know, one is a more left-leaning Republican, almost Democrat, and mine is a conservative Republican, a true fiscal conservative. You know, property tax relief. Everybody says they want to do it. We can provide property tax relief. Property taxes went up 74% in the last 6 years. The state budget went up 47% since 2019. How many of you saw your income go up 47%? So we can provide property tax relief to the hardworking people of House District 40 and Wyoming, and maintain all the essential services that we need, police, fire, rescue, schools. All of that can be done if we are actually honest. This state has $40 billion in surplus. 40 billion, people. That money should be put back in your pockets. We've gone up 47% in 6 years. Did that money go to your school, to your roads, to your bridges? So we need to be honest about what we're doing with our budgets.
Mr. Jones, thanks for waking everybody up in the audience. We appreciate that. Well, for our first question, funding for special district operations comes from property tax. If property tax is reduced, what alternative resources, if any, would you support to ensure these services continue, Mr. Jones?
Yeah, across the state of Wyoming, the average percentage of the county budget that comes from property taxes is 8%. Those are figures from the Department of Revenue and Department of Audit. 8%. If everybody got a 25% property tax cut, 25% of 8% is 2%. It would cut 2% from the county budget. 2%. Keep in mind, this state's budget went up 47% between 2019 and 2026. So we do not have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. Where is it going? The money can come back into your pockets. The state of Wyoming has $40 billion in surplus. So it's a false argument that a minor property tax cut is going to impact the county budgets in a dramatic way. Again, people, Department of Audit, Department of Revenue, 8% of the county budgets come from property taxes.
Ms. Connolly.
Thank you. When you say only 2% for a county property tax, that's easy to say, it's only 2%, but when you put the dollar amount to that 2%, that can really affect our special districts. It can even more affect our small towns like Story and Claremont and KC. We have to be able to find a way to keep our special districts going, at the same time being responsible to the taxpayer. And I think we can do that. And I think there's some other ways that we can work on that, maybe look at the mill levy statutes, but when the assessed value drops, so does the funding.
What do you believe are the top 3 issues impacting Sheridan County that should be addressed by the legislature, and what is that impact, Ms. Connolly?
Well, since most of House District 40 is in Johnson County, I would be just looking at that as far as Story and Claremont. However, when you get to Cheyenne, you got to look at representing, in a way, all the counties. So I'm thinking that the top 3 ones, again, is doing the tax relief, making sure that we've got some health care going with our mental health issues, and that we can keep our hospitals and EMS running, and then job creation is another big one, and housing is what I'm hearing. So those would be the 3 that I think would affect Sheridan County.
Mr. Jones.
So I've already spoken at length about taxes and spending. You know where I stand on that. That's 1. Number 2, federal government overreach. How many people remember COVID, when the government chose shut down businesses and let Lowe's stay open and shut down mom and pop hardware stores? We're going to have another situation with another Democrat president like that, and we need to be prepared to stand against federal government overreach. The third thing is deregulating business. I have a good friend that owns a major business in Johnson County. He would go out and hire 3 high-paid workers right now, if not for unnecessary regulations placed on his business by the state of Wyoming that do not have anything to do with safety or environmental concerns. Red tape and unnecessary regulation is stifling that man's opportunity to go hire 3 high-paid workers. So federal government overreach, deregulating business, and our budget.
What is your approach to fiscal responsibility, Mr. Jones?
The first thing we need to do is audit everything. As one candidate pointed out tonight, the state of Wyoming hasn't had an audit in years. Many counties in Wyoming have failed audits for multiple years, okay?
We need to audit and see where your money's going. Again, our budget went up 47% in 6 years. Where did the money go, people? How many of you got a 47% raise? Wyoming has $40 billion in surplus. We can give everybody property tax relief. We can provide for all the essential services. So we need to find out where the money's going, and then we need to prioritize and make sure that taxpayers keep as much as possible while we still provide for essential services. And that's the role of government, is essential services. Police, fire, rescue, schools, bridges, things like that. That's all they should be doing.
Well, I agree with a little bit of that, but I disagree with the fact that I don't think our counties and our special districts are out to rob the taxpayers. I think they're held accountable by their money that's advertised every time they pay a bill in the paper, and we need to be fiscally responsible. We need to look at our budgets. We need to know and be able to save, but I don't think we need to be taking away reserves, because a lot of those reserves are there to provide equipment. They're already allocated. And I've been in Wyoming my whole life, and I've seen it go up and down and up and down. And I remember when the streets of Buffalo had plywood on their windows. So there's a little more to it than what my opponent thinks.
And Ms. Connolly, your final thoughts and your 2-minute statement.
All right. Well, I didn't talk too much about myself. Most of you probably know me. I grew up on the Bird Farm Road. I raised my children alone as a single mom in Johnson County. I've fought for better representation and the better future of everybody in House District 40. I've been a county commissioner. I've served on the Rural Healthcare District Board. I worked 3 jobs as a single mom, CNA, I started my own little business so that I could get some cash flow so I could send my daughter to the University of Wyoming. I know what it's like to be a resident and a longtime citizen of this state. And I really get upset when people say, this is the best place in the world to live. It is. It truly is. And the reason it's the best place to live is because it was built on the backs of my grandfather, great-grandfather, legislators that were wise enough to come up with the Permanent Mineral Trust Fund and the school foundation programs that put Wyoming where it is today, that makes it such a great and wonderful place where people want to come and live. And I'll do everything in my power to protect what's working and fix what isn't, and consider every vote as a taxpayer and a resident. So I appreciate your opportunity to be here tonight, and I would like your support in the election.
Mr. Jones.
Thank you. Thank you to the chamber. Yes, I just want to point out, Ms. Connolly is a very nice lady, but she certainly represents a different ideological bent than I do. House Bill 116, 2025 would prohibit illegal aliens' driver's license from being recognized in Wyoming. She voted against that bill. Fortunately, it became law. House Bill 9, grooming of children, sexual offenses, which increased penalties for grooming children, 2026. That also became law. Ms. Connolly voted against that bill. Parental rights amendments that passed the Wyoming House, House Bill 200, 2025, Ms. Connolly voted against that. Ms. Connolly represents a different ideological wing of the Republican Party than I do. I'm a constitutional conservative that actually will stand against illegal immigration, will actually stand up for our children against sexual predators, will actually stand up for parental rights. Parents should be raising children, not the schools, not the government. I will stand for our Second Amendment rights. I will stand up against federal overreach. I will actually walk the talk and not just say the things. And I encourage you to look at voting records. Everything I've just told you is easily accessible at wyoledge.gov. And I know people come into these debates and expect a vanilla exchange, and this is nothing personal, people. But you have 2 stark choices in this race. And Evidence-Based Wyoming, which statistically ranks voters in terms of how they vote with the Democrat Party, ranks Miss Conley as a very far left-leaning Republican, left of some of the Democrats. So, and I'm sorry to have to bring that out, but these are facts and can be checked in the wyoledge.gov voting records. She voted against property tax relief. Later, she voted for it. We can cut spending, we can provide property tax relief, we can protect constitutional rights, but we have to send people to Cheyenne who actually believe in constitutionally conservative principles and the aspects of the Republican Party platform.
Ms. Conley, I apologize. We are out of time for this one. We do thank you both for joining us today. State Representative, House District 51, I'm Susan Bigelow and Lori Bratton. All right, we will start off with our final introductory statements of 2 minutes. Ms. Bigelow.
Thank you very much. Those who know me well know I could talk for an hour without notes, but 2 minutes needs notes. Okay, good evening. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for hosting these forums, and thank you voters for staying for this last race. We appreciate that. I'm Susan Bigelow. I'm running for the legislature. Many of you have heard me joking about being a rocket scientist, which I was, kind of. I worked in national defense, and I managed an engineering group on the Peacekeeper Rail Garrison Development Program. I even held a top secret clearance. But that is not why I am running for the legislature. Jobs, 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 training, and housing. That is why I am running. I have 14 grandchildren. Half of them live here in Wyoming. And I know many of you have children and grandchildren who live here as well. I believe Wyoming's next generation deserves us to be good stewards, to retain what is good about Wyoming, to retain the savings that the minerals industry has helped us build, to respect the tax structure that brought us to this enviable position. I believe we should be investing today for Wyoming's future, investing in good public education that creates workforce skills, investing in economic growth and diversification that provides good-paying jobs, and investing in solutions to our housing needs so young people will be prepared to work in Wyoming industries and can afford to live in Wyoming. I have lived and worked in Wyoming for 30 years, investing in economic growth, working to expand technical training, and focusing on an even brighter future for the next generation. Jobs and a good economic future. That is why I am running to represent Bighorn, Powderhorn, Sheridan, Ranchester, and Dayton in the Wyoming House of Representatives. Thank you.
Ms. Bratton.
Thank you to the Chamber and all of you who came tonight to learn about us and our public policy positions. I'm Lori Bratton, and I am your elected representative and running for re-election in House District 51. It has been my privilege to serve you over the past 2 years. When I first ran, I made a commitment to represent you with professionalism, integrity, and statesmanship. I have worked every day to uphold that standard while we're delivering results grounded in conservative principles. I was born and raised in Ohio, where I graduated from college, starting my teaching career, and met my husband of 40 years. We left there after 30 years for work in Colorado and Florida. In 2017, our family chose to move here for the Wyoming way of life. I'm running for re-election because I care deeply about this community and this state. My daughter and her husband are raising my 3 grandchildren here. My relationships and my involvement in so many different organizations in this community came before I stepped into the political arena. Many of you know me from the Daughters of the American Revolution, the Brenton, Cornerstone Church, Reach for Autism, At Ease Horsemanship, Bighorn Women's Club, the Chamber, Government Affairs and Agricultural Committee. I'm also a master gardener and an agricultural producer. My 16 years of public policy experience at both the state and the federal level allowed me to hit the ground running during my first term in office. I worked collaboratively with a wide range of legislators in the House and Senate to advance meaningful legislation. I am on both the Education and Judiciary committees. My work on the joint interim committees, which meet in the summer, have been productive, bringing significant improvement to committee bills in preparation for the upcoming sessions. We passed bills to protect minors from stalking and grooming, mental health hold for our jails, some more that didn't fit into the 2 minutes, and I'm asking for your vote to continue to serve this community. Thank you.
For our first question, what do you see as the purpose of the state's sovereign fund and the rainy day fund? What adjustments should be made to the use of those funds? Ms. Bratton.
So thank you for the question. These funds were put into effect for the ups and downs that come with our Wyoming economy, especially as it was reliant heavily reliant on the mineral industry. Interestingly, this year was the first year that interest money, those investments were our top source of income for the state. So just in general, I would say that those funds, they're good in that they are there. There's a lot of money in them, and that they should be used for true emergencies like I saw in my district and in Wyoming last year with the fires.
Ms. Bigelow.
Hello?
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, now we have sound. My first 10 years back in Wyoming was spent in Campbell County. And Campbell County in 1996 really thought that the coal industry would just continue on, growing on, but it did not. This year we mined half as much coal as we did in 2008. And coal, oil, and gas really created that sovereign fund. And the earnings on the sovereign fund will continue to benefit Wyoming long after the coal industry is our major revenue generator. And so the sovereign fund really was like one of us putting away money now for our retirement later. We put away the sovereign fund money for retirement later. Thank you.
Which legislative committee would you most like to be assigned to and why? Ms. Bigelow.
I would most like to be assigned to the Education Committee. I am a strong supporter of public education. My first college degree was earned here in the state at Laramie County Community College, 1984 or 83 or 2, I should look that up. But I am really a strong supporter of education, and many of you know I worked for Sheridan College for 12 years before I retired from there, and I have continued to work with every community college across the state in my grant writing work and with the University of Wyoming. So I'm knowledgeable about education. My PhD is in higher education leadership, so I think my experience and my education really prepare me for that role.
Ms. Bratton.
Thank you. I have so enjoyed being on the Education and Judiciary committees. Education, the Education Committee, especially with my background as a high school science teacher, was a good fit. I enjoy meeting with my superintendents, getting into the schools as often as I can, listening to my fellow educators, and I promised them when I ran 2 years ago that I would work to get them a significant raise in the classroom, and I worked hard to make sure that happened. Judiciary has been a very interesting committee. I've probably read 10,000 bills with my legislative experience, and so that came in very handy on Judiciary. If I wasn't on those two committees, I would ask to be on the Ag Committee because I care a lot about water law.
Have you played a role in economic development in Sheridan County? If so, what did you learn from that experience that you would bring to the legislature? Ms. Bratton.
As far as a role in economic development, I mean, I'm a small business owner myself, and so I certainly appreciate everything that comes along with the challenges that come with being a small business owner. My husband and I actually have 3 individual businesses that we run, and certainly are supportive of the business community. One of the reasons that we joined the chamber was to learn more about the other businesses here in Sheridan County, and I appreciate the work that the chamber does regarding that. In the legislature, I have helped pass legislation to address concerns regarding retail theft, which has been a problem even here in our beloved Sheridan.
Ms. Bigelow.
Thank you. You know, earlier questions I really hoped I had gotten, but this is really the right question. My role in economic development. I have worked in Wyoming in economic development for 30 years. First as the economic development director for 5 counties in northeast Wyoming. They hired me at the college because I had helped bring federal grants in to expand the career technical education areas. We are sitting in the WYO Theater, so I just want to say that I had a hand in writing the grant applications, putting together the project to bring $4 million to expand the WYO Theater. So if you were here before 2017 or so, you know that we did not have wing space. We did not have a large area in front, but we do today, and part of that is because of my role in economic development.
And Ms. Bigelow, if you can please give us your final remarks and your 2-minute closing statement.
Thank you very much to the Chamber again for having this delightful forum. I have appreciated the opportunity to visit with you tonight. Wyoming is at a crossroads. We've heard that tonight, and I agree with that. Many believe that Wyoming taxpayers are overburdened and that national problems are Wyoming problems. The simple truth is, if we do not invest in our future, we will not have a future. We cannot starve the very roads, water systems, fire districts, and schools that keep our families here. I solve problems. I just mentioned the WYO Theater before the renovation. I also worked on the Children's Center, which was a Whitney Benefits College project, Weatherby, Kennan. I provide staff for this Sheridan Economic and Education Development Authority. I work to solve problems here. As your representative, I will not sit back and quietly wait to see whether a bill or amendment will fail or pass before making a move. I will listen, research, create a coalition to effectively pass legislation, and make a stand early. I will work for jobs, 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 training and housing our young people can afford. When you cast your vote in the primary on August 18th, I ask you to use the standard of delivering results for Sheridan County. If you want a legislator who values capability over rhetoric, who answers to Sheridan County, and who has spent 30 years working for Wyoming, I ask for your vote. Choose common sense and steady leadership. I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Ms. Bratton.
Once again, thank you to the Chamber for this opportunity and for all of you here. If you have additional questions that weren't asked, I would love to visit with you afterwards. Most of us have brochures on the table out front, and I always welcome your calls and emails. If reelected, my commitment to you is to continue to deliver results through leadership and collaboration. The ability to build coalitions without compromising core principles is how the real work gets done in Cheyenne. When I'm working on bills, I incorporate amendments specifically requested by our locally elected officials. Some examples of this would be the 7% regional cost adjustment increase for Sheridan County School District 1, long-term local government funding stability via direct distribution at 8%, property tax relief that doesn't address special districts. I voted no on Senate File 110. Funding for the Sheridan College Science Building renovation, enhancing government fiscal transparency, a bill I ran for the state auditor, and funding for mental health holds in our county jails. Bills I'm looking into for the upcoming session include taking another swing from a different angle at the situation at 30 North Gould, continuing to ensure fiscal transparency for citizens with my legislation in the Department of Audit. And I also have several bill requests from constituents that I'm having legislative services look into. I personally read and do extensive research on the bills that have come to my committees and before me on the floor. You can ask any legislator, Democrat or Republican, in any of the factions to confirm this. A fair number of bills are nonpartisan, which is why it's very important that you email me your position on your legislative priorities. This is how I can best represent this district. I would like to serve as your representative again in the House and respectfully ask for your vote either August 18th or early voting just began. Thank you.
On behalf of the Chamber and its Government Affairs Committee, I'd like to thank the candidates and all the other volunteers. Also, a special thank you to the WYO Theater staff, as well as all of you for attending this evening. Please vote on or before August 18th, 2026. Just as a final note, the WYO Theater is trying to lock down this area, so if you can at least move in that direction and have your conversations out there, it would be appreciated. Thank you.